All right, getting comfortable. How you doing? Excuse my voice. It turns out, I guess, that I'm catching the cold my wife had. So I'm not really expecting a lot of viewers on this one since it's so early. But I can do one thing, and I'm going to do it. Y'all already know. You already know. I'm going to send the link to my brother. Luke, I'm your brother. Yep, I'm wearing my good Adidas coat, so I gotta have my vest my wife bought on so that I don't accidentally F it up. What do we got here? Got him in the mail the other day. Putting it off, painting him, but yeah, that's a Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides, who is his own unit in the game. Like, you don't add him to a unit. I guess you could attach him, but I don't know. I'll have to double check it, but he counts as his own damn unit, which, I mean, the mountain that rides probably should. And of course, I've got a bunch more of the Clegane's boys. So I've actually got, for the Lannisters, 2 units of Raiders, plus the mountain that rides to lead them. That is pretty cool. Now, the mountain that rides on foot looks like he could be put in charge of a unit. I don't know if he could actually lead it, but and I've got Jamie and Cersei. Jamie will be easy. He'll just have gilded armor and a red cloak and everything, so it'll be pretty easy to paint, I think. Of course, I say that now. Cersei will probably be difficult because of all of the exposed skin. But they've got Cersei here looking all sultry and, willing to do whatever it takes to win the Game of Thrones. Because when you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die, right? Isn't that the rule? So my silent men, I got to finish them up. All I need to do is their boots and stuff. So pretty easy stuff. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and finish magnetizing this second unit of Clegane's bandits, brigands, whatever. I mean, these are not heavily armored troops at all. They're just fast strikers. Tell you what, I've been watching. Oh, somebody's chatting and I'm not even paying attention. I've been watching the lore videos. Big Vic, how you doing, you reprobate? He's a frozen reprobate. We'll call Big Vic a reprobate sickle. Since, he's up there in the frozen north. But, okay, let's go ahead and just putting the magnets in. After they're on, I'll glue them and mess them around and whatever. And let's make sure that guy is kind of facing forward. There we go. So that he's the magnets are right. So just listen to Donald Trump giving a speech talking about retaking the Panama Canal and whatnot. which, you know, even though I am a person that's not a huge fan of what's it called, wars, taking the Panama Canal wouldn't be a war. After reprobate. I mean, the last time we had a problem with one of those countries down there, what was it? Was it Panama that we had a problem with? I think it was. The one drug dealer was in charge and he like refused to play ball with the CIA or whatever. I know it was shady all the way around, but you know what happened with him, right? Next thing you know, you've got airborne rangers airdropping directly into the airport. Yeah. And it would take about, I don't know, maybe 4 hours. I mean, people seem to forget that back in the 90s, I think it was, we invaded them once before. And the war was over in hours, literally hours. I was in the Army at the time. I remember all of the Ranger guys that I hung out with bragging about their freaking combat jump wings because they airdropped right on the airport. And even though there were armored vehicles there, the Rangers still just ran through them. So, you know, ran through them like a big girl at prom. You know, that's an Army thing. Yeah, Manuel Noriega, that was the one. So, I mean, the thing that the Panamanians talking all their smack don't seem to understand is just the sheer difference between their military and our military. You know, like, would we fight to take it? It wouldn't be a fight. That's the problem, you know, for them. It wouldn't really be a fight. We would airdrop a bunch of shit on top of them and they would die in droves and they would surrender. And that would be the end of it. That would be the end of it. Just like the last time. It's kind of like when people talk about, I mean, would America ever invade Mexico? Well, we've invaded Mexico 2 or 3 times now. And every time we conquer the shit out of them in under a couple months. And then we give the country back because honestly, the United States doesn't want Mexico. We're not interested in that shit. Why would we? If we were to, as the United States, if we were to claim Mexico, it would lower our GDP on the world stage. You know, it would just cause so many problems. You would have like problems with people. You have problems with people needing to learn the language, and would they?
Hello. No.
Hello. I mean, if we conquered the Mexico, would they ever want to learn English, or would they always want to stay Spanish?
Those that come here don't want to learn the language.
Right. The ones that sneak into our country don't want to learn the language. So if we went ahead and just absorbed their country, they probably wouldn't want to learn the language either. And that would cause issues. And then there's just the straight up cultural differences. The fact that in order to be a citizen in Mexico, you got to be Roman Catholic, which is not something that would fly with most Americans. So, yeah, it's like, I mean, people in the world who aren't American never seem to understand like the actual power of the United States. If we actually want to fight, which, you know, doesn't happen a lot. But every now and then when we decide to fight, especially against anyone in Central or Central America, let's say, I mean, these countries are countries where their largest armies are like 4,000 men. That's like their big army. Like, oh man, the Sandinistas got an army with like 5,000 men in it. Okay, baby.
That's cute.
Yeah, and that's cute because that's not even one freaking division of ours, and we have tons of divisions. So taking the Panama Canal would be the easiest thing ever. You just put warships on either end of it and then airdrop all over the place in Panama. We've done it before, and whip their asses for about a day. And then their president would be like, okay, the Panama Canal now belongs to the United States.
Again.
And we shouldn't have talked shit. And we won't again because, but no, I'm not pro-empire, but yeah, I mean, let's be realistic.
If America wanted to be an empire, it would be an empire.
What would be your casus belli? We just want it back.
Yeah, we just want it back.
Yeah, that's it. Freaking douchebag shouldn't have ever given it away. And they've been ripping us off forever, and we're done with it. So we'll just take it back. Thank you. I mean, you got to remember, and I speak as somebody that's actually anti-war. The United States historically has never really needed that much of a reason to just go ahead and invade the shit out of somebody. I mean,
usually it's because somebody messes with one of our boats.
Yeah, most of the time somebody messed with a boat. And if you mess with a boat, you're done. Like, we will erase part of your country off the map if you mess with a boat. But, I mean, like, let's be honest here. I don't know where you're from, Renterine, but if all of the EU were to gang up and decide to go to war against the United States, that war would last about 6 months. If 6 months. Hell, the only countries in the EU that might give us a problem would be Poland. France would fall immediately.
Poland
the UK,
is usually...
The UK don't even exist anymore.
Poland does seem to do pretty good against nearly impossible odds.
They do. And plus they're pretty far inland and, not easy to get to, but any European country near a coast is just done. Yeah, nukes are still nukes, and guess who has the most? It's not anybody in Europe. And unlike Europeans, we can shoot them down. We actually have the means to shoot down a nuke. So, the Europeans would fire nukes. We would knock them down, and then we wouldn't even have to invade. We wouldn't even have to nuke Europe. That's really the point I'm trying to make. Is for the U.S., it would never have to come to nukes. Like one of our Marine divisions could land on the coast of France, a la World War II, and conquer France. I mean, the French can't do shit. Now, would we ever do it? No, because
no real reason to.
We have no reason to, and no one in the United States wants Europe. So we're not trying to create an empire over here.
I mean, the only thing we get out of it is just, it'd be kind of funny.
What in the world are you grouching about?
We're just talking about how easy it'd be for the United States to take out Europe.
But why would we want to? There's nothing over there worth having.
Exactly.
Maybe we do it just for the shits and gigs.
That'd be the only reason to do it, because like Hungar said, there is nothing in Europe worth having.
Yep.
I mean, everything Europe has We have better.
Right.
Might be because our country is the size of basically their continent.
Right.
I say just leave the Europeans alone and let them be their silly European selves.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. If Europe decided to like get crazy and go into the war on the side of Ukraine, Russia would wreck them.
Yeah.
Like, as long as we stayed out of that war, which we would, Russia would wreck Europe. And there's nothing the Europeans could do about it. I mean, Russia makes more artillery rounds in an hour than France does in a year. So, yeah, good luck with that. That's why Ukraine's falling like crazy style, because, but the British didn't want them to sue for peace back in April of last year. So now more of them get to die. Yay. Thank you, Boris Johnson. Don't surrender. We'll give you weapons. Yeah, well, you know what? It turns out that the EU weapons and the US weapons, for that matter, kind of suck. They kind of suck. Oh, we're never going to war with Russia. Don't worry about that. Unless we pick it, we're not going to war with Russia. It's not going to happen.
And nobody's going to ever invade the U.S.
Well, I mean, who could?
Well, South America.
South America couldn't invade us. They ain't got
And they already are.
Nika. Come on, Nika.
We're already being invaded by Mexico.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Don't
They
cry,
already
Nika.
invaded. South America's already invading us.
Yeah, the Argentinians. Well, we'll see what happened. Homeboy got freaking sworn in yesterday and gave a pretty fiery speech about how he's going to start taking people to the woodshed. So, you know what I mean? The Mexican president went from like talking all that good shit to we'll happily receive any of our citizens back. Thank you, sir, Mr. Trump.
There's Donald Trump, take me home to the place I belong, Mexico. No.
And I love these freaking far left sanctuary city people. I'll go to jail in order to save our illegals. And the guy in charge of deporting the illegals is like, well, then you'll go to jail. That's just what's going to happen then, because we're not going to have any of this shit, and it's pretty hilarious, honestly.
Hey, brother, you want to be peanut butter and jealous?
Why?
Our mother is cooking us chicken ribs tonight.
Oh, nice.
I'm having chicken soup and a grilled cheese sandwich because I ain't feeling good. You know what they say about chickens, right? When a man eats the chicken, one of them is sick. Yeah.
Vic, what's up, you reprobate?
Looking at some pictures of a truck down in Dallas I'm thinking about buying. So
Vic's the king of the reprobates.
Thank you.
All hell Vic, king of the reprobates.
I will wear that proudly. Oh man.
Looking at a truck in Dallas.
So talking about Manuel Noriega. Let's see here. What other tin horn dictator have we knocked off with our troops and it took us less than a day?
Grenada.
Yeah, wouldn't that take us 3 hours, 4 hours to get drop in there? And
sure people don't understand that. Even with all the DEI bullshit that the U.S. military's been doing that has weakened us, that most countries on the planet do not compare. Not even close.
Did you see Trump's post the other day that he wants to fire 20 generals? He's already got 20 generals lined up to get their shit canned.
That's good. They all, a lot of them need that.
Our buddy Craig actually dropped into Panama.
Yep. He used to be the manager of the comic shop, and he'd always he was so cool. Like when the comic shop would close, if like we were there, he would close the comic shop, put the closed sign up and everything, lock the doors, but we were allowed to stay in. And we'd hang out and just bullshit around and play cards or whatever.
Yeah, he dropped in.
He was 82nd Airborne.
And he said there was about 15 minutes of fighting.
Yep. He was 82nd Airborne. They dropped in wherever they dropped in, just wrecked the place.
Nika, come on.
But
no,
the Air
the
Force
US
got what minimal equipment they've got for heavy armor is a complete joke. You know what I mean? All we'd have to do is land one Marine Expeditionary Force, act like it's going to pass through the Panama Canal, instead just stop dead center and land the troops, and it probably within a couple hours.
Okay.
What the hell, Les? What are you doing? You entertaining children today?
Yeah, babysitting my cousin, my nephew.
I was gonna say, never heard that voice out of you before. Sounds like somebody's strangling your you-know-whats.
Okay.
Testiculars.
Yeah.
Carson, watch ES. Let's
So
get ES on here.
I got a line on a 2013 Freightliner down to Dallas, so hopefully I can buy this thing today and get on an airplane.
Who are
in the
you
next
talking
couple-
to?
Huh?
I think Leth is having a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
I'm
I think so,
sorry.
too. I think he needs to put mute on for a minute.
Are you getting a Cascadia or what?
Yeah, it looks like a Cascadia. Yeah, it's a Cascadia.
I had a 2018
Trucking.
Cascadia. It was a good truck.
You know what? All I need it for is about 2 years, 3 years. As soon as I get down to Florida, I'm going to work it for 2 to 3 years, enough money to pay for everything until my stock thing with the SEC gets settled, and I'll pay everything off. And then I'm just going to sit there and go, well, I'll work when I want to work. You know what I mean? Sort of like your brother over there, so, you know, who doesn't work at all.
No, I am 100% fully retired.
But my idea is get a place down there in Florida, pay for it in cash, and then tell the world basically to F off.
Yep. I'm just waiting for my wife to finish so that she can retire, and then we can do whatever.
Well,
But
that might be a long while, man. You never know.
But yeah, that's a good thing when you work jobs that have pensions and stuff, you know.
Well, you got your insurance benefits you're on full disability, right?
Yep, 100% disability.
Yeah.
And the city still pays me every month and pays for all the medical bills related to the injury. Because, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's tons of other firemen that are on the same deal. Every now and then, like, we all meet for lunch, and there's, like, I don't know, 15 or 20 of us that have all been jacked up so bad that they kind of had to be retired out early. I mean, that's the good thing, though, about our union and stuff is if you get hurt, the union will step in and make sure they take care of you instead of trying to F you over. Because they tried to F me over, and my union stepped in.
They always do. Every I've seen it so many times. Insurance companies and everybody else, they try to do it all the time. And
Yep.
It's just like, you know what? you know you're trying to lowball us. I know you're trying to lowball us. Let's, and there's always an arbitration clause in there that if you read your contract, you can go after it and stuff.
My city refuses arbitration. And they also refuse to settle. They have literally told my attorney they would rather pay me until I die than settle. Because somebody who crunches numbers did the numbers. Yeah. They said, well, let's say he lives to be 75 and we pay him his salary until then. It would be less than what we'd have to pay him if we paid a one-time.
Right. That's the actuarial tables. So you had an actuary sit there and go, okay, we're going to pay James his $4,000 a month. I'm just wild guessing here. We're going to give him $4,000 a month, pay his medical, and it's going to cost $7,000 a month. Basically, let's roll this out for 12 months out of the year. Yeah, and instead of them paying you $6 to $8 million straight up, they looked at it and said, well, we can make that money easily by throwing that money in the stock market and just the interest money on that. We can pay him. And instead of James having a $7 million nest egg, he can sit there and buy half of Kentucky with. They're going, they just go, it's just easier,
Yeah.
But in the end, it does.
And if I die early through some kind of happenstance, they save all that money.
Yeah. And if there's an insurance policy or like a life insurance policy you hold, see, I would have told him, yep, you're paying for my life insurance too. So
I think they are, but it's not that much. Also, $40,000 a year for a firefighter. Oh my God, I wish. Down here, closer to 30. I think my best.
I said 4,000 was 4 times 12 is 48 grand. So
yeah, my best year was like 36,000.
Yeah.
And that was the year I worked like a shit ton of overtime and worked on Christmas. And, I actually would just worked all the time. But people think, now I didn't, I knew the deal because I knew guys who were firefighters before I went to college. But people think that firefighters make all this money. They don't. That is a freaking joke. Firefighters are, for all of the bullshit that we got to put up with, low paid as hell. If you want to make money in the medical field, but you don't want to be a doctor or something, you become an RN.
Our cousin became a physician's assistant and is doing very well.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's an RN plus.
Yeah, he's doing really well. Working at a private practice.
Which cousin?
Patrick?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he thought about being a firefighter and then said, F it, and just become a physician's assistant. Yeah, those guys make 6 figures easy.
Yeah.
Down here, an RN worth her salt can easily make 90,000+ a year. Like easy.
That's trucker money.
I mean, yeah, all she's got to do is work the night shift, not pay for insurance, and take the they got a thing they give you for working night shift.
That's new trucker money, Hungar. That's new trucker money. When I started 35 years ago, I was getting 21 cents a mile, I think it was. It started at. Now it's
when I started, I was only making 22 cents a mile.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's because you guys were driving for Swift.
Oh. Now, them are fighting words right there. I've never driven for Swift.
I started
with their trailers before, but never driven for them.
I started with CR England.
Crummy rotten England.
See, you know what? I paid for my trucking schooling.
I paid for my own trucking school because I knew that when I knew the deal when you got hooked up with a couple of these companies, they would just rape you for 6 months. So I paid for my own trucking school.
They
Right.
paid for my trucking schooling, and I didn't have to be a team driver. What I did when I was working for CR England is, for most of the time, I would pick up a brand new truck and trailer in Utah and drive it to Virginia, and then drive a bobtail old truck back to Utah and
Why were
drop
they
it.
doing that? That doesn't make sense.
Not just transferring trucks back and forth.
See, it's too bad neither of you speak an Eastern Slavic language, because I could have totally hooked you up with employers up in Chicago.
No, thanks. No, thanks.
They're mostly Russian or Serbian, the owners.
No, thank you.
I mean,
I've
they
seen
speak a little English, so you'll be
I've seen
fine.
what they do to their drivers. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that being non-Russian, I don't know if they would treat you as good as they do their Russian drivers.
And they treat the Russian drivers like shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, could be worse. Could be Somali drivers
Oh God, I've dealt with enough of those up here.
Please.
riding around with a goat in the truck.
Going into the bathroom with a ball of water with a hole poked in the top of the cap and spraying water all over the freaking place.
Oh, what are you talking about? They got the hole in the door in the when they're running team, they got holes in the closet that they take a shit out the bottom of them. I've seen
I
it.
don't-
What do I call them? The slit toilets? Yeah, it's gross. No, thank you.
Well,
Then they cover up all that crap with 5 gallons of what do you call it?
cologne.
Cologne. Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
It's almost as if there's this weird theory where if you import bad people into a good country, the country don't get better. But if you import good country into a bad country, the country gets better.
A novel idea. Novel.
It's
Novel, let
like-
me tell you.
Like you look at Rhodesia. They imported a bunch of good people into the country, and it was a great country until they got rid of them. And then it became a shithole full of people starving to death. So what are you going to do? Import them into your country? They're not smart enough to farm or run an economy or anything. So, you know, I mean, if the country you come from is that terrible, you should not be coming here.
Yeah, Rhodesia is a textbook example of how not to take over a country. Now you can add Cuba to it, and
Yeah.
South Africa.
Oh yeah, South Africa is turning into an s-hole. All the whites are trying to get out of there as fast as they can. You know.
Yeah. See, South Africa might hang on a little bit longer, though, because they're under the thumb of the Chinese, to the point that they even forced the South African Congress to rewrite their own laws, making Chinese honorary Africans, because they had rules about, you know, if you were white, you couldn't get certain things. You had to be African. But the Chinese forced them to change that shit because they're so in debt to China.
Yeah, well, that's that. What's that road and what's that Belt and Road or whatever that is?
Yeah, the Road and Belt Initiative.
Yeah.
China built, I think it was Madagascar, a port. But the secret was the Madagascar people thought, oh, this is going to be awesome because all these people will get jobs, right?
And none of them went to them.
Yeah, China imported their own workforce, and the interest on the port, which technically belongs to China, is so high that Madagascar will never be able to pay it off.
I know.
They are really predatory when it comes to the way they treat Africa. Meanwhile,
Well,
them assholes shoot one of our Blackhawks down, and we fight, for days to get our men out, and then we turn around and import them assholes and dump them in the middle of Minnesota, as opposed to just carpet bombing the whole country, which is what I would have done.
I would have carpet bombed the whole country.
Yeah. Every time I've watched Black Hawk Down, which is like 3 times, I just leave angry. It's just like, yep. How about the 2 Green Beret guys that died saving the helicopter pilot?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they killed like 100 Somalis doing it, but
You know what my feeling is about it? They have a
What?
stable government now. Load up a 747 and send them back.
that's true. Do they have a stable government, though?
Doesn't matter. They said it was stable.
Hey, if
Underneath
they
that.
say it is, we'll take their word on it. Because it's like, for the longest time, Somalia was one of those states that didn't actually have the bare minimum to be considered an actual country.
Well, hey,
Like, they
let me-
had no
let me preface
infrastructure, no government.
let me preface my statement there. I think that's for all countries. You were here for well, Syrians or whoever, and you're here for political asylum or whatever because your government fell, and now it's stable again. I think you should give them 60 days. Say, nope, here's your notice. You got 60 days. You're headed home. That's it.
You know what's crazy about this whole thing is the whole birth of the United States came out of the fact that our country was not stable.
Yeah.
We were being mistreated by the government. Nothing was stable. They were just throwing taxes around like it's anybody's business. Basically they were being jerks. And we turned around and said no. So it's like, why can't these other countries do that? What is there between us and them that makes us able to throw a revolution, then set up a whole government with rights and everything, and everyone's happy, versus their countries that end in juntas and beheadings and, killing fields? And I mean, it's like, what is going on here?
Well, I'm back.
Welcome back.
My feeling about it is that, you know what? All these Syrian refugees in Europe and the United States and Canada, load them on 747s and send them 60-day notices. Say, that's it, 60 days. You must get out of the United States. And
My thought-
Assad is gone.
if we
My
catch
thought about it is, let's become like Poland.
Just don't let anybody in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video of the Polish border guard shooting some guys across the Belarusian border there.
Oh, they for all their talk about brotherhood with Ukraine,
Mhm.
don't be Ukrainian trying to sneak into Poland.
That's
I mean, you know what I mean? Don't be anybody trying to sneak in Poland. Now, on the other hand, depending on who you are, Poland is incredibly easy to immigrate to.
Yeah.
But if you
Don't
are
do it illegally.
Any one of us could
legally, you
go
can
over-
immigrate to Poland really easy.
any one of us could get a 2-year visa to Poland, a work visa, and go over there with no problem at all.
Yep.
Because none of us have records and shit like that.
The other one would be Hungary. It is so easy to go to Hungary. Oh, you need help with groceries? Okay, hold on.
Here's the thing, Hungar. How do you know I don't have a record?
Hungary, you're in charge.
Hungar's bouncing in a minute.
Hungary, you're in charge.
Hungar, you're put in charge. Hey, will
You're
you
in
give me
charge.
that axe? Now that you're in charge, you can have that axe back now. You can finally say, I'm taking my axe back.
Yeah. You get that axe and some interest.
Ah,
But yeah, Hungar, how do you know I don't have a record?
come
How
on,
do you know?
you're too blind to have a record.
I don't know. You don't
Anyways.
know. I could be like my uncle.
It's sort of like the Guatemala or Honduras that said that we don't want our people back.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, we have an Air Force base down there. No problem. C-130s loaded to the gills. Fly them in there, kick them out the backside, and say, well, you leased us this base for 50 years. We're just going to shove them out the front door. Here you go. Right out through the front gate. Right it back into their home country. There you go.
You don't
Thank
just
you very
take that.
much.
Take a couple of AC-130s too.
I think that
We don't need Puff the Magic Dragon circling around.
if
You
somebody
never
wants
know.
if somebody wants to come over here legally, come on over. I'm
Right.
down with it. But
You
I'm
gotta
just
file the proper paperwork, blah, 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 blah. I am full for it. But coming over here illegally, and then like my state, you know what they do in Minnesota? If you're an illegal alien, you get free college tuition. And I first thing out of my mouth is, I can't afford for my 4 kids all to go to college at the same time. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, they're
That's
putting
called
the
that
price-
discrimination. I
they're
really
giving
do.
Here's the thing. They're giving the immigrants how much our college education is actually worth. Nothing.
Yeah. I still have the feeling though it's what the hell? It's my kids can't go because I can't afford it. Yet somebody who comes up here and is an illegal alien can send their kids to college for free.
You shouldn't be sending your
I'm with
kids to
you,
college.
Dirty Ogre. We don't need those C-34s. We just need an A-10 Warthog.
Oh yeah, I like the hog. That's they should have sent those
Hey,
over to
either's fine.
Ukraine already. They should have sent a flight of 24 over there, and that war would probably be ended by now. And we just all that Russian military tanks and stuff would just be chewed up, and it doesn't matter.
Not
So,
really.
Yeah.
Again, if there's any kind of enemy opposition in the air, those warthogs aren't going to really do very good.
yeah, but
Did Daddy just disappear?
And I'm going to say this: Russia probably has a decent air force, decent enough to take on warthogs alone.
the
Yeah,
Warthogs,
Warthogs are for ground support.
Yeah.
well, I got my own theories on the war over there. Your brother has his own, so we'll just everybody has their opinion. So.
Besides, doesn't matter how much equipment you send to a place without people to man those equipments.
Yeah, that's true.
How do you feel about that?
I'm gonna go back in here.
Oh, you got, hold on, real quick.
Now,
So, Hungar, did your wife make it over the hill?
And I got in the shop.
I haven't talked to her yet today.
And I got.
It's always fun running up over that hill. I did it once in Colorado. I was empty coming out of LA. I think I had like 1,000 pounds in the back. I ran up that hill. They just put up the chain sign, and I said, "Fuck this!" And I just went all the way up the hill at 55 miles an hour. Got through the tunnel. I got stopped over on the other side by the way station on the Denver side. They pulled me in and said, "You know, we could write you a ticket." And I said, "For what?" And they started on this. He said, "Well, since you only had 1,000 pounds in the box."
I've done the same thing. I was
So have lunch. I'll make the dinner at dinner time.
I was going over Ville, and right when I hit the hill, they started flashing the chain sign, and I just kept going. Just drove right over that bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know how many times I've purposely went over a hill without chaining up. It's like they had it because I was driving. You know, my loads were sometimes anywhere from 1,000 pounds to 20,000 pounds, and it was like, why do I want to stop here with all these other dumbasses and their 40,000 plus pound loads? Throw on a set of chains. when I'm already going 65 miles an hour plus up this hill because I had a 435 kitty cat underneath the hood and a 13 speed, and I'm going up the hill like bat out of hell.
I don't chain. I don't chain. If it's bad enough for chains, it's bad enough for me to stop.
I chained up once, never again. I carried them. I had a nice ball of rusted steel underneath my steps of my truck.
Yep.
I carried them because they said I had to, but chaining up, nah. What? No thanks. I didn't need it. You know. But hell, you know, the southern drivers, I saw one chain up in Texas down there on the roadway. He was chained up going down the freeway. I was like, are you out of your mind? So
I know up in Kentucky there's tons of ramps. No one uses them anymore, and they're falling in disrepair. But I guess it was from back in the day when sometimes trucks would lose their air brakes or whatever.
Runaway ramp.
runaway truck ramps, yeah.
Yeah, but now no one they're completely not maintained or used or anything.
Yeah.
Because I guess trucks are better. I don't
It's
know.
They're maintained in Colorado and Montana and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when we went over the frickin' Smoky Mountains through the park, that was some pretty steep drive in there. If you've
Yeah.
ever been through there, it's pretty steep. There's a turn sign in the Smoky Mountain that says turn ahead, and it's just a circle. Because it's actually you go down and then through a tunnel.
Yeah.
So it is a circle, but the first time I saw that, I turned to my wife. I'm like, the fuck is that? I mean, what does that even mean? You know, I've never seen that before. Because
You guys,
I've
don't
never
know.
been through the Smoky Mountains before.
I don't know. Now Hungar is probably the only one here that might have done it, but I doubt he has. Have you ever been over Wolf Creek Pass, Hungar?
No, never went over Wolf Creek. I did do Donners every day for 3 months.
Donner's nothing. I've
Every
done
day.
I've
For
done
3
Donner.
months.
I went over Chief Joseph. That was a fun one. That's a little 2-lane road from Idaho into Montana.
Yeah, Cabbage.
think I'm gonna have to go though. About time for lunch. I'll see you.
All right, left.
All right, see you left. Yeah,
Cabbage out in Oregon. Flagstaff is always fun.
Flagstaff's nothing.
Yeah, until you get those noobs out there who lose a gear
Oh,
or try to ride their brakes. You smell freaking brake pads all the way down the mountain and see smoke.
Oh yeah, I've seen guys go down the mountain. Their tires are on fire, or brakes are on fire and stuff. It's just like shake your head, and then you get down to the bottom of the mountain. You see them down there, and they're on the side of the road with their fire extinguisher, and you're just like, you know.
I had to go to school and get a CDLB because we were expected to be able to drive trucks with air brakes.
Well, I've seen enough of that nonsense that a lot of these drivers now, they're just basically steering wheel holders. I mean, they don't know how to shift. And there's driver's license now for CDL holders that have
Automatic
a
only.
CDLA or a CDLM, they call them. The manual, you can do a manual thing, or a CDLA, which is automatic or an automated transmission. If you got an M, you can drive any semi truck. If you got an A, you can only drive trucks with automated or automatic transmissions.
Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I love a manual transmission all the time. Because when you're stuck in traffic out in LA, a manual transmission sucks balls. But for control going up and down a mountain, I'd rather have a manual.
Oh, I'd rather have a manual in winter conditions also. Just saying. And I also think that a lot of these drivers need to learn how to turn off the goddamn freaking cruise control. Oh my God. It's more accidents happen because of cruise control than
People who leave their cruise control on in icy conditions or rain. They're just They're just waiting to get into an accident.
That's the first thing I look at when I.
Bless you.
That's you.
Well, first thing I look at when I look at a wrecked semi truck, when I find a wrecked semi truck, the first thing I look at is I look on the inside, and guess what's 90% of the time what the problem is?
Cruise
They all
control.
had automatic transmissions.
I agree with you, Nerdy. There is no aircraft ever built like the A-10. And every time they say they're going to get rid of it, we get into a war and they bring that bitch back. Because they're like, yeah.
Because, like you said, it's not an aircraft; it's a weapons platform with wings.
Yeah, they have to be careful when they fire the main gun, because if they hold the button down too long, it'll cause the airplane to stall out. Because the force of the recoil from the gun will actually cause the jet to stop in midair if they hold the button down too long. But those things, man, that's when you really, really want to make sure whoever's firing RPGs at you from the tree line is dead.
Yep.
That
It's like
A-10
when
comes
Walmart-
in and it's like, yeah, you guys are done.
It's like when Walmart said they're going to stop selling 357 millimeter ammo.
Yeah, 357 millimeter, because they didn't know the difference between 357 caliber. Walmart's stupid, and I think ran by stupid people.
Yeah.
It used to be you could go into Sam's Club and buy tires at Sam's Club for a semi truck, and then they figured out how to end that process because they're trucking. Walmart's trucks all run on certain tires, and they would, Walmart buys semi loads a day of that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, they'd have to. I mean, they're probably one of the biggest shippers, like, in the United States.
If you drive a semi truck, you've hauled for Walmart at least once.
Yeah. And you might not even know it. You might say, I'll never haul for Walmart ever. But you did, trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, might have been a blank trailer even, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't even know what's in it until you get there. And then it's like,
You-
oh, okay.
You could be working for Warner, driving a Warner trailer and deliver it to one of your terminals, which ends up going to damn Walmart.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've delivered stuff, though. I mean, just in my long career, I've showed up to grab a load, and it's like, oh, this is going to be fun. You look at the bill of lading, and you're just like, huh, this is nice. It only has numbers on it. It says U.S. government load on it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another fun day of driving,
Yeah. Mail trucks, maybe.
I picked up.
I got a mail contract currently, and that's even fun too. Dead bodies, blah blah blah. Stuff you don't
Yeah,
even.
but the thing is with the mail, if your trailer says U.S. mail on the side of it, DOT and state troopers don't mess with you.
Not anymore. Minnesota did one day. Guess what happened? They pulled over a guy over at the St. Croix Scales in Minnesota, and they said they're not going to release the truck or the trailer because it had DOT violations. The U.S. Postal Inspector showed up there with 5 guys and said, "Here's the story. You're releasing all the trailers right to a Postal Service driver. We don't care what you have to say, or you're going to jail."
Yep.
Nowadays, what I used to do is I used to have my mail trailers and I'd run regular freight. Well, they put those postal seals on the back end, those pieces of paper that said this is a Postal Service load. I'd leave them on there, and I'd get pulled over sometimes hauling regular freight. The inspector walk up there, look at the seal, and he just turned around, walk on the side of the thing, hit the side of the trailer, and say goodbye.
Yeah.
You just drive away because they knew right away they did not want to go to jail. So
Yeah, I've seen semis that were just like held together by duct tape and dreams, hauling freaking postal trailers. speeding down the highway, bypassing way stations like it's their jobs, and nobody messes with them.
Hey, you don't mess with those dudes.
Damn, he gone.
He'll be back. They're in the middle of a winter storm up there.
Yeah, it snowed again last night.
Let me find my mouse so that I can add him back in. Boop, boop, boop. There he is. Yeah, they had a winter storm.
No, we didn't get anything up here. My Wi-Fi must have just switched over. I don't have cable internet. I switched to that T-Mobile stuff because Comcast wanted to charge me $200 something a month for TV and internet, and I was like, "What kind of crack are you smoking?"
Seems a bit
I'm not paying it,
right?
And I told the lady at Comcast, and she called me and said, "We'd like you back." I said, "Okay, here's the deal. I want unlimited internet. I want unlimited cable TV, and I'm going to pay you $75 a month." She goes, "We can't do that." And I said, "Well, that's fine because I have T-Mobile and I've got all this other stuff I already paid for." I said, "It's $75 a month or nothing, you know." And they didn't want to play ball, so
Yeah.
what do I care, you know?
Yeah. That's on them.
Anybody stupid enough to have cable internet in this day age is I don't know.
We've got cable internet, but we don't have TV.
So,
Because if I want to watch something, I've got all the streaming services. So I was like,
Well, yeah, I got all the I play for Prime. I play for a couple other little services, and I got Disney for the kids, way back, and I've had that for years. So
yeah, I've got Prime and all the anime services. So
yeah, he made me my own anime account on his Crunchyroll because I was constantly making fun of the stuff he was watching. Because when I'd log on his account, I could see like his history, and I'd be like, "Why are you watching JoJo's Great Adventure?"
yeah,
I've never watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
my kids got
You
a
haven't, and yet you know the name though.
Yeah, because it's a very popular anime. I just don't watch it. Like
You
I
know
don't watch.
what the point of JoJo's Adventure is?
No.
It's all about like elaborate, in-your-face masculinity, but it's also cool to kiss your homies.
It's like One Piece. I've never watched One Piece.
It's like everyone in JoJo's Big Adventure is like super masculine, but at the same time, they're okay with kissing their homies.
It's about a gay vampire or some shit like that.
It's weird. It's
like
like
One
and
Piece.
when you're
Everybody
talking about
says,
Japanese shit and you're saying that's some weird shit, it's like
everybody says One Piece is like the greatest anime ever, but there's 1,122 episodes and it's still going.
yeah, it would take you pretty much forever.
I didn't start watching it when it first came out, so I'm not going to live long enough to finish the damn series.
Well, One Piece is basically we could all have peace and live in happiness if only we could unite against the powers that are holding us down. But they never will. I was watching a guy and he was basically doing what do the different animes mean.
Oh God, I don't even want to know.
Mean?
Like when he did JoJo's Big Adventure, he said masculinity is awesome. Plus, it's cool to kiss your homies. I was like, what? But then he did Berserk, and he just looks at the screen, dead face, and says, pain. And that was basically his, short thing on what is Berserk, the anime. Pain. Just pain. He even did a short where like his friends like, you're always watching cartoons. Would you watch little Timmy here? I'll be back in like a couple hours. And when he comes back in a couple hours, he's like, how are you doing, Timmy? And Timmy's like, Griffith.
I got an argument with some chick because I said Griffith was cooler than Guts.
Oh my God.
We fought for like 4 hours online.
I guess that would be one way. Just go on to like Twitter and just post that and watch all hell break loose.
What are you saying? What to do on Twitter?
Go on Twitter and just post that. Actually, if you really think about it, Griffith was better than Guts.
Oh,
And I guarantee you, you will get what do they call it? People on your channel. Oh yeah, you're gonna get it. And they're all gonna hate you. And want the worst for you and your entire family.
You're gonna wish nothing but bad for you.
It's gonna be nothing but bad because they're gonna be like, how dare you? How very dare you even say such a thing? Griffith better than Guts. Or say something even more innocuous, like, you know, was Griffith really the bad guy though?
I don't watch the TV show, so I'm not saying nothing.
Well, let me tell you, Griffith was the fucking bad guy.
But was he really?
Yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I think the point where he raped one of his best friends and, you know, murdered everyone he knew and
I
become a
think he
demon.
misunderstood.
Yeah, when he become a demon, I think that's where you kind of knew that guy ain't a good guy. You know?
Or go on and say, if you really think about it, Guts is kind of weak.
Right?
Look, I just saw that look in your eye when I said that. You're like, you were getting ready to go off. You were like automatic mode. You were
And then
getting
I stopped. I was like,
you were like getting ready to just like lose your shit right there. That was great.
Griffith. Griffith is the best fantasy character ever.
Or go online. It's like Spike Spiegel was pretty much a little bitch.
No, don't say that, but say, you know, when you think about it, Spike was kind of a simp.
Oh, yeah, geez.
Because, you know, how he was always so
Yeah,
whatever over that woman,
over Faye.
Faye. Or not Faye, no, the blonde woman that shot him.
Oh, yeah.
You could be like, you know, when you think about it, he's kind of a simp. Like, bitch shot him and he's still okay with her. It's like, I don't know, bro. That seems like some simp action to me. I wouldn't have it, you know? You're supposed to be this badass mafioso guy, but then you get betrayed by your best friend and shot by your girlfriend. And, you know, you're all emotional about it as opposed to just ganking fools. It's like, yeah, kind of simp move right there, you know? But, oh, yeah. That'll start some Twitter shit, I guarantee. The anime stands will lose their mind.
I don't get it. Some people, it's a fantasy world, just, you know, and then they got to bring real world politics into the damn thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm gonna beat you with a, you know, I mean, as soon as you walk out the door, does your world of blah 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 really matter? You know?
I'll tell you this. I don't think there's any real world politics in Berserk.
No, but there are some struggle cuddles and some audacious sword fights.
Yeah, there's some of that. But it's a medieval world based on what the Japanese think that European medieval age was like. And pretty much armies are just rolling around ganking each other.
The crazy freaking crusader chick.
The priestess.
Who's a freak.
Yeah, she's like the leader of the chain knights of the church, the Holy See,
Yeah. Who's also a big masochist.
who's also a gigantic masochist. Yeah. And, the different demon acolytes that apostles, that's what they're called. Guts is always hunting down demonic apostles because ultimately he wants to get Griffith and kill him. Like he killed what's her name, slept with her first.
Yeah.
Slan. And he killed the one demon that always tried to appear like a fairy. Like he's killed a lot of demons. He killed the goat demon that had a snake for a wang.
The snake wing demon.
Yep. Let's just say this, because you don't watch anime. Berserk is not like any other anime. That shit is hardcore. And if you could make your D&D world half as good as the Berserk world, you would be doing a great job. Like the guy who wrote it originally died. So there's only like 10 manga books, but they finally hired a guy to finish it. And the character arcs and everything that goes on and why people do this and that and all the like characters meeting and then leaving and then re-meeting and enemies and friends. And I mean, it's really just well written. It is just, Guts starting out as like basically the mercenary that adopted Guts called him Guts because his mother had been hanged for witchcraft and she was pregnant. And when they hanged her and she died, Guts fell out of her underneath the hanging tree and was laying in the mud screaming. And one of the camp followers of this mercenary unit picked him up and took care of him. But that woman's boyfriend, I guess, never liked him. So he was kind of abused and, turned into a child soldier, basically. At the age of 10 or 11, he was forced to fight. And, that's basically his whole life.
I'm going to bounce out.
All right.
All right, Hungar.
I'll see
Have
you
a
guys.
good one.
Like they say in Paris, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Oh man.
Love you, bro.
Yeah, that never gets old.
Hi there.
How you doing, Jose?
Fine. I have been analyzing MechWarrior Destiny. I posted a comment of somebody, and I tend to feel that there is a solution for the problem of civils, but it needs to be addressed in a way. But there was a lot of bashing in that comment. So basically, that's it.
Screw those guys, because I read your solution to the XP bill thing, and I thought it was elegant and would work 100%. It'd be awesome. So
Yeah.
Anybody who told you otherwise, they're dumbasses. I wouldn't believe them.
Yeah, because I thought that if you convert XP to civils, it is going to work. Civils is the currency of Battletech. So it is going to work because you're not converting back to XP or anything like that. So basically, you're handling your economy based on your XP earned in the game.
Yeah, kind of, but not. Because it's like, if you do an adventure and you get 6 XP, well, the DM can give you 3 XP and 150,000 C-bills.
Yeah, makes sense.
Or whatever it is, right? And that makes so much more sense, because then when you want to get your mech repaired or something, you don't say, oh, I'm going to exchange, 1 XP to get the mech repaired. You actually pay to get the mech repaired.
Yeah,
that makes
that's
the
correct.
world more immersive, because you're actually, keeping track of shit. I like, we've had this talk before, bro. I have no idea who come up with the idea to try to make money all super abstract. I don't think most players like that.
Yeah, I
No, I
don't
don't.
think so. Yeah, I agree with you totally.
And I know that the players at my table don't like it either. When I ran against the Dark Master, which has that abstract freaking money cut thing in there, I had to dump it entirely and use Merp's currency because, you know,
Yeah, it is like with the chaos campaigns. Also, there it is abstracted to support points for repairs and all this and all that. So basically, I also prefer civils. It is more crunchy, but it is money, money.
right. And a lot of people play these games specifically because they like the idea of looking at their character sheet and seeing that stack of gold pieces.
That's
You know,
correct.
that's what they enjoy. They want to see that cash.
Yeah, cash.
That's
Whoa.
We're Americans. We want to see the cold hard cash.
Yeah, me too.
So, you know, it's like, well, you're American too. You're just not United States.
Yeah, maybe
But
maybe
you are
at heart.
American,
At heart.
right? I mean, you are in Central America or somewhere in America.
That's correct.
But yeah, and it was like there was a whole wave of games that just came out and did that. And it was like, no one likes that. But the game designers were convinced that people like that. And it's like, no one likes that.
That's correct.
Hear that?
I agree with you.
Baby, your TV's a little loud. I don't think she heard me. She's half deaf. Baby, your TV's a little loud. I'm picking it up. Oh, okay. Okay, now my mic's not picking it up. Thank you. I mean, what can I say except you're welcome for the sun and the sky and the rain.
That's an interesting topic for game design, the topic of cash. So I learned today a lot about it. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of people don't like it. So which came first, Slan or Slanesh? I believe Slan may have. I'm not sure. I mean, how long was Berserk around? But I can definitely see where one of them could have took inspiration from the other. I mean, because originally it was like no one was 100. I mean, the original Chaos Demons were kind of like, yeah, they existed and you kind of knew what they were about, but you didn't really know what they were about. And now it's like every detail. But anywho, yeah, I still, when I do AD&D or OSC Advanced, I still use gold for XP. You gain an amount of XP equal to the amount of treasure you bring out of a dungeon. That's how it works. But I might give you bonus XP if you do like super heroic shit or just stuff that makes sense for your character. And I also allow players in between adventures to trade a small amount of gold for XP by doing something that's like makes sense for their class. So, I mean, if you're a cleric and you decide to donate a shit ton of money to the church and do like a bunch of free, religious stuff like healing and whatever, then I might let you trade in 100 or 150 gold for 150 XP or whatever.
I never in my game never allowed gold and magic for XP because I always felt it was a tradable commodity. So what I did is I started giving experience points for actions in fighting only. So maybe if they, if I made a particularly hard lock and they managed to figure it out, I'll give some extra XP or a riddle or a puzzle or something like that. I'd give extra XP, but I wouldn't. I thought XP for magic and gold is just ridiculous. So
That is very second edition. That's how second edition works.
Yeah, indeed, I designed some rules to create contracts for BattleTech using civils only. So I'm going to pass it through the private chat.
Right. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be. Except with House Kurita, who never hires mercenaries, and House Lao, that will always try to F you over in one way or another. You can't trust them. And then House Merrick, they pay pretty good, and they're always fighting against Mercenary Mission Generator. Nice.
I am posting those rules.
I see that. Cool. I like it. Characters or vehicles, objectives, target, infrastructures. Yeah, I like it. I mean, because let's be honest, half of the fun of playing Destiny or MechWarrior 2 or whatever is arguing with the House representatives and bartering and carrying on about how much money you should be paid. That's a big part of the game. And also that's a reason for one of your characters maybe to invest heavily into, diplomacy or, whatever the relevant skill is for haggling or bargaining or whatever. Have a player build an entire empire off of fireworks, but to get the necessary ingredients, he traded with dwarves using wolfen currency because the dwarves found it to be more valuable than human currency. In Talislanta, if you make a character that's Cimmerillion, you roll like 1d20 Cimmerillion pentacles, and a Cimmerillion gold pentacle is worth 5 gold lumen. So in Talislanta, there is no, okay, let's make sure everybody starts with a balanced amount of money. I mean, hell, one of the character types, the Muse, under money, it says they don't care. So they have none. They start with what they start with, and they have no money. Also, they're really lazy, and they don't like to work unless they want to. But hey, I mean, when you're a butterfly-winged fairy creature, then I guess that's how you're going to be, right? But yeah, I mean, but getting back, to the BattleTech thing, I mean, the amount of C-bills you can argue out of somebody is a big deal. But then again, also the fact that you can be ripped off. I mean, somehow, if you want to work for House Lao, I mean, you can do that, but don't be like too butthurt when they basically put you into a situation that you kind of just can't win. Because that is the House Lao way. That is what they do. And of course, don't go to the Kurita guys because they won't be there. And if you're a mercenary, they'll tell you they hope you die and choke on your own blood because they hate mercenaries. At least in 3025, House Kurita despises mercenaries. But Steiner pays well, FedCom, they pay pretty well. Merrick doesn't pay as well, but they tend to be a lot more open about salvage. So it really depends. Like some of the houses, they'll be like the ones. It's like the better they pay, the cheaper they are about salvage, unless you really argue. And speaking of dwarves, I'm wearing my apron. And I didn't know this until recently, especially since I'm like 6 feet tall. But apparently, my wife has somewhat of a dwarf fetish. I heard you. Because she says that I look like a dwarf when I wear my apron, and she thinks it's like really cute. So,
You know what cute means to women? Sexy.
uh-huh. And she's a dwarf anyway, so
How tall
Hey.
is your wife?
how you doing?
How tall is your wife?
I don't know, like 5'3", 5'4", maybe.
Oh yeah, she's small.
Yeah, she's a little one.
I bet she's fiery too, though.
Oh God. Yeah, she can be a little scary when she gets her temper up. I blame it on her Scandinavian blood. You know, she gets all Viking, and all of a sudden it's like fine. It's just easier to do what she says than to fight about it.
That's what I say when mine starts going off. I'm just like, it's just easier to just get this done and over with, and
Yeah. Of course, sometimes I fight anyway, just because I like the battle. I'm like, battle. Yeah, because I'm very much Scandinavian as well. So it's like, all right, we'll see who's more hard-headed, Danes or Norwegians.
to me, it's do I have 100% chance I'm going to win this battle, and I will battle it out. Otherwise, I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend goes buys something, and I just tease her a little bit about it. Just say, oh yeah, okay. You're gonna go buy more beads for your, making this and that. I'm just like, I don't care. It's like whatever you want to do. If it keeps her entertained, it's fine by me.
She has her own money, her own account, her own whatever, so she can buy whatever the hell she wants. I don't think it's really my business unless, bills aren't getting paid. But as long as, bills are getting paid and there's food on the table, I really don't give a shit. She can, whatever she wants to buy, if it makes her happy, that's all that's really important to me, And she is very frugal, which means everything I just said really doesn't matter, because she won't buy anything unless it's on like an amazing sell, or you know what I mean? She's very frugal. Whereas me, if I want something, I buy it.
Yeah, it's sort of like going to the hardware store. I'm frugal until I walk in there, and then I'm like, "Ooh, look at that tool! I could use that." Let's see here. Then I weigh out. All right, if I hired a handyman, he charged me $100 to do this. If I buy this tool for $90, I save $10.
Right?
And if I ever need that tool again, I've got it in my collection.
We go to the hardware store and we always joke that we never go once. It's like if we go to the hardware store one day to get something, we always end up going again later that day. Because whatever we wanted for whatever thing we're doing, we always forget like one thing. And it's like, back to the hardware store.
Oh, yeah.
Or you get the wrong. See, I do a lot of the plumbing around here. So you get the wrong coupling. And you've got everything dug up and ready to go. And then you're just like, ugh. I don't have, the 1/2-inch coupling I need. So off to the store you go, looking for a 1/2-inch freaking PVC coupling. But it's got to be the PVC couplings that are the same interior diameter as copper pipe. Because for some reason, irrigation down here, they use the PVC that's the same size as copper pipe. Why? Beats the shit out of me. I don't know. But they do. I can understand why they don't use copper pipe, because that shit's expensive. Plus, you'd have a bunch of meth heads digging your yard up in the middle of the night. But I tell you what, that used to be my specialty when I worked in plumbing, was copper. I could solder copper pipe together while there was still water in the pipe. I was so good at that shit, they'd call me out. And I was a pipe fitter, man. I could put it together, no problem. But PVC super easy too. I mean, you just throw a little glue on it. It'll be fine, you know. So that was a pretty decent job. It was before I become a firefighter. It was like, basically, I showed up in the morning. They gave me a list of shit that they wanted me to do. And then I got in my F-250 truck, Ford. And, you know, I'd go to 7-Eleven, pick up like some breakfast, F around for half the day, and then knock out all my jobs real quick because, you know, it doesn't take much to do. And then roll in and be like, yeah, they're all done. And my boss would be happy because I never called him. I never harassed him. You know, I was never the guy all in his ass about anything. He knew he could hand me a stack of like 20 jobs. And I'd be like, and he'd never hear from me until closing time, you know? And I would get my jobs done. Which is why he made me I'd become an inspector for a while, where I would go and check when they were building homes and shit. I'd go check the connections between our sewer pipe and house.
Yeah.
Oh man, construction guys hated me because I'd roll in there and I'd get my level out and shit and be like, no. Put a big no on their permit, and then they'd have to re-dig it up and redo it. But I mean, what could be worse than paying like $350 for a new house, getting in the house, and then finding out that your sewer does not work? Like every time you try to, you know, use the toilet, it just doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Because some idiot on heavy equipment ran over the clean out and either broke it or disconnected it from your main. So every time you flush the toilet, the water's running into the dirt because the clean out isn't even attached. And then depending on which side it's on, it's either their responsibility or our responsibility to fix.
I watch, there's a guy out of Phoenix, Arizona. He does home inspections. He puts them online.
Right.
and he just walks by their sign. He won't name the company that's doing it, but he walks by the sign and what village it is that they're doing. And he's going in for home inspections. Oh my God. The crap he finds is just like, how do they get away with that stuff? And then they have to go back in there and fix it. All these builders do. I'm like, do it right the first time. It isn't that hard. You know what I mean? An extra 2 seconds, you could have pushed that into place and it would have been fine, you know?
I have had people tell me when I was doing inspections and stuff that not to be such a hard ass. And it was because there were people in the municipality who the owners of certain building companies had given, you know, like year tickets to NASCAR races and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were way up in the city. So they were like being like, oh, if it's this builder and shit, don't mess with them so bad. But I always did anyway. because what were they going to do? Call me in front of the city manager and be like, this guy's doing his job too good and it's messing around with my grift.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but
there is so much of that grift and graft going on behind the scenes.
oh yeah, even in a
one of the
little place, even
one of the places I used to haul into here in town, and I won't name the place, they got season tickets to the Wild, the Timberwolves, the Vikings, and what's the other one? The Twins. Every year from the same broker.
yeah.
They got that. This guy went out and bought season tickets and then just turned them right. Now he owned them. The broker owned them, but he turned them right over to this company, and every game they wanted to go to, everything. You know what I mean? It was just like
They used to do that. They would come in to try and sell us like some kind of new tool or meters or whatever, and they would take all of the managers out to lunch, and then they would, you know, basically that it was like they were giving them all these gifts and stuff, trying to get them to get these new meters. And unfortunately, it worked a lot of times. You know, they would end up buying, you know, doing a contract with these guys for these new meters, and the meters would suck, but you know, there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and the thing is that there's no accountability when you get up that high in these government organizations and stuff like that. There's just nothing. They just, you know, there's supposed to be that trust there, but that's why our government spends so much goddamn money these days, you know?
Yeah, the city manager, nobody's going to question that guy. As long as he stays in his lane most of the time, he's 100% fine. Now, if he does something really egregious, then the city council can vote to remove him. But even then, that's not guaranteed because they have to vote to remove him. And as long as he's got the majority of the city council on his side, he will never be removed.
Oh, I know.
You know,
and it's see, that's where I don't think Washington or any of the founders really saw that coming, because of the graft and the greed of everybody. I mean, they should have saw that a long time ago and put a mechanism somehow inside the Constitution that we could go after these asshats. Because
I think the problem was they may have thought humans were better than they are.
Right.
And, you know, so, but anyway, yep, back to the C-bill thing. The C-bill thing is cool. I mean, one thing I was talking about with Destiny, because I own multiple copies of MechWarrior 2nd Edition, was just ignoring the XP and everything in the Destiny book completely, and just using MechWarrior 2nd Edition instead. Which, I mean, Destiny really is just the inheritor of MechWarrior 2nd Edition. They're very similar games when you really get down to it. The main difference is Destiny, you can play without miniatures. You know, it's a little bit more up to date. But when you really get down to it, it's about the same thing. You create a character. You can go to schools and do a life path thing if you want. And then you get your attribute plus skill, get it, you know, subtracted from a number, gives you your target number or pilot level, you know, and gunnery, and then you play the game. So they're very similar. And in MechWarrior 2, it was all about the C-bills. They even had a book called Mercenaries, and that book was just nothing but how to keep a mercenary, lance, company, whatever, you know, solid and running. And that was the goal of the game, was just to not go bankrupt. So, you know.
Well, now with the rules that I created, the two links that I shared in the private chat,
I read it.
one is the table, the other one is the
Right.
rules. So basically, with those rules, I am sure that you will be able to create some very interesting things, because it all is made to work with CBLs, not XP. So pure gold.
Yep.
No XP.
See, second edition AD&D, what Vic was talking about, they changed it to where you gained XP based on like your class and the actions you did, or even the DM could just by fiat say you earn X amount of XP. Whereas first edition was a lot more hardcore about it. It was like 1 gold piece removed from the dungeon equals XP. But I never gave XP for magic, ever. Because that would be crazy, because like a +2 longsword is like, 50,000 XP or something. So no, I never, because I always felt like having the magic item was the bonus.
Yeah, that's what I felt. It was just, and I thought money, you spend it. And if you're spending money, well, you're spending money. You don't get to claim it for everything.
Yeah,
So,
but the argument is that by making it where you get XP per gold, it makes it where the players aren't just combat monsters running around trying to kill everything, because they don't have to. They can literally just sneak in a dungeon and grab some shit and leave and get XP.
Or I have another idea.
Other idea?
Basically, you have the amount of XP that are supposed to belong to a mission,
right?
Okay, but from that amount, you can only earn the amount of XP that belongs to how much money you made after repairs and after spending all of your expenses. So that is the real amount of XP. What do you think?
Yeah, that would work.
That would work. Okay. Sounds good. So there is a nominal amount and a maximum amount of XP that you could earn, but basically you are only earned based on your profits.
And I've talked to the designers of the game. They're online. They're pretty, available if you just want to send them chats. And I've even mentioned that, hey, this thing with no XP is an issue. So, I mean, we'll see. We gave XP for magic items. It balanced out for us. See, I never did because, like I said, having the magic item was the advantage. So but like gems and stuff like that, you got XP for. Which means if you found a diamond that was worth like 5,000 XP, holy shit,
Well,
when did start it? Okay.
It's an article I wrote. So
right.
My treatise on why when Dungeons and Dragons started its slide, and I figure it was second edition.
Yeah, second edition was really the slide, even though people want to say third. But I've talked to Max Lau, actually, and I did videos on this, which are gone now. But pretty much second edition was when they tried to remove Gygax from the game. And as a side result of that, they started adding in like all the weird shit. It was like, no longer was it okay just to be a human fighter. Now, in second edition, you could, be all of these things, right? So, one of the reasons I never played second, and if you added in like, all of the player packs, like the Druid book and the this book and the that book, I mean, you could go down a rabbit hole forever.
Well, the Splat book, the complete book on humanoids, and you could be a half ogre fighter and stuff like that. That's where I felt it went. Actually, second edition period. You're taking out demons and devils and all that stuff.
Well, they tried to make it kid friendly. They got rid of assassins, which bad move in my opinion. They got rid of the thief is the rogue now.
Yeah.
And
Word of illusionists, you're all magic users.
Yeah, it was just like, why? Why is any of this happening? You know, none of it made sense. Magic items were super rare in my game.
All mine are random.
No, see, all needed for the next level wasted. That's a strange way to do it. I didn't do it that way. You kept a total. So if you got more XP than you needed to level, well, you leveled and then you had that other XP. But I did use the rule where you had to train. So
I got that rule too.
Question.
That was a rule. Yeah.
Question. DCC is like first edition or second edition or
Which
third
one?
edition? What is it like? DCC.
DCC is its own game. It ain't like anything.
What?
I think they're just
Okay, so it is not like any
more-
I
edition.
mean, it feels old school, like earlier editions of D&D, but the rules mechanics are totally their own thing.
I don't
Like
mind.
the way a mage works, like mages can pick a couple of spells and just cast those spells all day. They don't have to memorize. I mean, they memorize spells, but once they memorize the spell, they can cast it all day. There's no like, oh, you cast your spell, you're done. And healers are the same way. But the problem is every time you cast a spell, you got to roll your die 20 for the spell cast. And if you roll a 1, guess what? You're screwed. You're screwed. So it's like, hey, you can do this as much as possible. But if you F up, you know, then there you are, effed up. Is that by the book, Jeff? That once you go up a level, you lose all extraneous XP? I never thought that. I mean, I never noticed it, at least. If it's by the book, I mean, it's by the book, and that's just one more thing about AD&D First Edition that I ignored. Which there were quite a few things. It's almost embarrassing, honestly, because I talk about how much I love AD&D First Edition, which I do, but at the same time, there were so many rules in AD&D First Edition that I didn't even bother with.
Oh
Right.
God, the weather rule. I don't ever bother with that unless it's the mountains. You know, it's like
Hand-to-hand
we're in the
combat.
mountains, or we're on the sea. If we're on the sea or in the mountains, I will look at those rules. But otherwise, maybe the desert. I'll look at it a little bit, but I'll make sure they're bringing enough water. And normally they won't even go without that decanter of endless water or whatever it is.
For me, it was more of I didn't bother with the come on now, the unarmed combat rules, because that shit was crazy.
Oh yeah.
That shit was nuts. You know, make this roll, make this roll, make this roll, all percentile rolls, and it was just like, nah. Sorry, no. Not doing all that. Oh, yeah, you can only gain one level. So if you gained enough XP to go up 2 levels, you would gain 1 level and then reduce the XP by a certain amount, but not down to the max for that level. it was like just a little bit less than you would need to go to the next level. Yeah, I remember that. They were pretty hardcore about that back in the day. But yeah, they didn't just try to completely be like, hey, you gained 10,000 XP, but it don't matter because you needed 90 to go up a level. So that rest of the XP is all wasted. They did not do that. So, yeah.
Well, that's why I like the way I do it. Just you get experience points for monsters and for dead monsters and whatever you're doing, and then you know what? It's nice and slow. The progression is slow, and I get a lot of complaints, but I'm just like, what do I care? Oh, you're only third level. Okay, well, you're third level. You're gonna have to tough it out and keep going and figuring out what you want to do for,
Well, XP just for monsters can be a real bear.
Sure can.
Because like an orc is worth 5 XP.
Sure.
So you would have to kill 1 billion orcs, basically.
That's why they were forced to go hunting giants and stuff like that. These guys are like, oh crap, this is nothing. We need to go after giants and we need to go after dragons, and
Yeah, you would, because otherwise you would never level.
Yeah.
But if you use the gold thing and whatever, then it should keep you just about right. I mean, unless you're a Monty Hall DM and you're just giving, you kill an orc. The orc has 52 platinum pieces on it. It's like, what? That shouldn't be a thing, but okay. But yeah, and never gave XP ever for magic items, ever. Because having the magic item was the advantage. That was the reward. So why am I going to reward you twice? Right?
Yep.
And it's not that I'm trying to be selfish or stingy. It's just like, dude, But you know what? My players never complained.
You just picked up Axe of the Dwarvish Lords. That's worth 35,000 XP.
Oh, more than that. Axe of the Dwarven Lord, man.
Oh, let's look it up. I got the book right here.
Look it up. I mean, that thing was an artifact.
Yeah.
So
I got it.
Did I say Axe of Dwarven Lords? I meant you picked up the Dwarven throwing axe.
Axe of the Dwarvish Lords is 55,000 gold piece value.
Right.
A throwing axe is worth 4,500 gold piece value.
A little bit of a difference.
And only 750 XP.
Right. But I never bothered it, like I said, with giving XP for magic. So,
well, that's why I use the Unearthed Arcana treasure table more than I use the Dungeon Master Guide, because I've had them land on that relic table, and I immediately start groaning that then I've got to play, you pick up an axe. It's really cool. And let's see how intelligent you are. The takeover nonsense and stuff like that, because most of that stuff has got intelligence, and then it's taking over their body or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, because Gary Gygax read frickin' Moorcock too much and should have calmed the fuck down with all that.
Well, right now my group, they rolled some lucky rolls and they found a staff that's with a magic gem that's been separated from it. Now they found the staff, and I'm just waiting for them to put it together. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I was just making a comment on the intelligent swords thing. That was definitely inspired by the Black Blade from Elric. even in the Blue Oyster Cult song about the Black Blade, the sword, when it speaks in song, is all like, my master is my slave and all this shit. And the whole point of the sword was just to kill as many people as possible and spread chaos everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And Gygax was less of a Tolkien guy and way more of a Moorcock, R.E. Howard guy. But Arneson and crew, they were way more Tolkien people, which is how you end up. Let's see, DMG, nice. The character has points which are equal to or greater than the minimum number needed to go up. No further XP can be gained until the character actually gains a new level in training. Yeah, which means that you can have enough XP to go to that next level, but you have to get the enough for the training. And that's if you use the training rule, which a lot of people hated for some reason. I actually liked it, but I thought it made a lot of sense, you know, find a master, learn new techniques, whatever, but a lot of people just did not like training at all. And that's the rule a lot of people don't use. Like in 5e, when you gain enough XP to go up a level, you go up that level right then. So you can be in the middle of a dungeon and be like, oh, leveled. And that's just how it is in 5e. And I think maybe even in 3rd and 4th. But in 1st, nah, you had to, you know, and that makes the world a lot more real. Also, depending on how you are with your trainers and everything like that, I mean, they're contacts, they can be fonts of information, they can point you in the direction for your next adventure. I mean, you know, just because they train you on your next level of swordsmanship doesn't mean, hey, how you doing, Satya? Doesn't mean that, you know, they're just one-dimensional people. I mean, they might have jobs they want you to take on and stuff like that too. Of course, I have one player in my game that absolutely just hates every NPC. I just don't know what his deal is. It's like, unless the NPC's trying to hire him to do a job, he just does not like them.
He's got trust issues, huh?
I don't know what it is. He just don't want to talk to him. And I'm always like, dude. And he's always like, nope. In one adventure, he solved a riddle which turned a hag from a hag to this beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And part of the deal was he had to give her a ring and marry her. And he did, because it was the only way to get a clue they really needed to complete the adventure. Well, she turns into this beautiful woman, and she's a 5th level mage, right?
Yeah.
He was so pissed off. He was so mad. He's like, I can't believe I've got this NPC following me around, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, she's 5th level mage. You're only 4th level freaking whatever you are. What's your problem, you know? You broke the curse, changed her from being a horrible, evil-looking hag to this beautiful, red-headed woman. And you're just pissed off about it. It's like, there's something not right with you.
Oh, I've tried that. I've tried having one of my players is got this decent looking cleric, and you know, he's supposed to be one of these really nice guys, you know, and well, every time I try to get a woman to walk up to him as an NPC to get him to do something. He's like, no, but he runs away. He says his character runs away from him. I'm like, you think you're a little gun shy, man? He's also been divorced twice, but
Well, so have I, but never stopped me.
I know, but I find it quite humorous that he does that. So
Yeah, this guy is just hates. He basically hates the entire fantasy world, except for the other adventurers. But pretty much everyone else in the whole world he hates and wishes would die. And I'm just like, okay. But what's funny is when he runs games, because this is the guy that runs the vampire game, he tends to go like hog wild on like the descriptions of every NPC and and we had to talk to him about, hey, why is it that every NPC in this whole city is like so much more powerful than we are? Because that was one of the things he did. It was like you'd be walking through the city of Orlando with your vampire character, say, and you would meet some random street hood, and that guy'd be able to whip your ass. And it's like, how is this possible? It's like literally pretty much he created the world and our characters become NPCs in his world because nothing we could do actually mattered, right? All we could do is like run back to the powers that be and tell them because we couldn't actually defeat anything, So he changed it up and fixed that, but he had a tendency of every time we wanted to do anything, like we'd all come up with a plan to do a thing, and he would always make up some reason why we couldn't. And let me tell you, that shit's annoying, man. People like the players were starting to get pissed off because it's like, okay, I would understand if the thing we're trying to do is super difficult, that makes sense. But this guy is just saying point blank, no, you cannot do this. And it's like, what do you mean I can't do this? I'm an elder vampire. I should be able to do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Within reason. So, yeah. Other than that, though, he runs a good game. It's just he has a tendency to try to make all the players. It's like when you go to Elysium, basically, if you're a player character, you're a bitch. And everyone else there is more powerful than you, even if you're playing an elder. And then, like I'm constantly having to remind him that I have like status 5 in the cam, which makes me basically have the same political power as a prince. You know what I mean? And then he'll be like, oh, okay. And then he'll have to change the way people. Like I walked into one place and everybody there was treating my character like a schmuck. And I was like, I had to tell the storyteller, I was like, you do know my status is 5, right? And he's like, oh. I was like, and these scumbags are just talking shit. I said, if I'm going to have to wipe out all of these dudes outside of Elysium, I'll do it. And he screwed up and let me get my hands on a case of Syntex.
oops.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
That's a major oops.
Yeah, he made the difficulty really high, but guess what? I rolled it. And I was like, it looks like that Bruja weapons trader had a case of Syntax, and I am buying it. So now, I'm all like, I'm the bad player in the group because I'm the one that's all like, if shit don't go my way, I am going to blow up most of downtown Orlando.
Well, it sounds like a game of Top Secret we played with Merle Rasmussen one day. Did I ever tell you this story? We were playing with Merle Rasmussen at Game Hole. Merle's handing out character sheets to everybody, pre-generated. He says, "Put the character's name in the upper right-hand corner." Well, in the upper right-hand corner, it said Merle Rasmussen. I said, "Okay, my new character's name is Merle Rasmussen." Guy next to me says, "Mine is too." Everybody on the table said their name was Merle Rasmussen. His wife's sitting over at the table next to us. She's chuckling, and we started doing everything in Merle Rasmussen's name. I mean, you name it, we do it. We bought out the whorehouse. We did everything in his name that we could possibly think of. And, we're buying a case of Syntax, and we're going to go blow the shit out of stuff. So, yeah, I love that. I love when DMs screw up that badly. It's just like, oh, you just open the door for pain, man. I've also had to tell dungeon masters, pull them off to the side, and say, "Hey, you might want to back up a little bit on that before you go too far, because we're gonna just wreck your complete module if you don't straighten that up."
Yep. Well, I managed to get my hands on a crate of Syntax, and later on in the game, because this game's been going on for a couple of years, I managed to get my hands on a shit ton of Dragon Breath rounds.
Ooh, yeah.
For the old 870 12 gauge pump shotgun.
Oh, yeah.
So, my character's just preparing to go out in a blaze of glory if anybody F's with him.
I don't blame you. I'd get some detonator caps, plastic caps, and I would. I'd have some.
Yeah, but he's not wrong. You know what it is? It's just I'm a DM. He's a storyteller, and his style is different than mine, because in my storytelling, regardless of whatever game I'm playing, the players are always the most important whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like what they want to do, what's going on with them, that's the story, that's what's going on. But in his world, it's like the world and the NPCs are the most important thing. And, it causes a little bit of angst with some of the players, I'm included in that, but not the only one.
Well, here's my thing, is I try not to leave those doors open when I write a module and stuff like that. I try to think of everything as a player, you know what I mean, before I write something, just so that I'm like, okay, I'm covered. But if a player figures out something that I didn't think of, I give them the big clap. It's just like, congratulations, you outsmarted me on that one. But don't trust me, it won't be in the next version of the same thing.
Right. Yeah, Vampire's very different from D&D because there's so much politics and bribing, and like my character has a lot of ends with like OPD and shit like this. So, it is a little bit, I think, more difficult for a good storyteller, because it's like you've got the coterie of vampires, which is all the players, and they may not all agree on anything, but somehow you've got to get them all on board with something. But what aggravates me is the going out of his way to make sure we're like the bitches of the city, you know. So I started doing things to change that because I didn't like that. Like one thing I did is one of my characters' compatriots happens to know a little bit of necromancy. So I started learning necromancy. And now my character's got like 3 dots in it. So I can summon ghosts and have them follow people around and stuff. You know what I mean? Wraiths and shit. So if somebody pisses me off, I just have a wraith follow them around, find out wherever they go and blow it up. And it's like, there's nothing he can do about it because it's all fair. I think maybe the game might have just been going too long because at this point, my character's kind of like a superhero. Like I've got celerity and potence pretty much maxed out, and so I can.
He doesn't retire characters.
Huh?
He doesn't have you retire your characters.
Oh no, this game's been going 2 years, same characters.
No, well, see, D&D, I once they get to that 8th, 9th level, whoops, you've been called by the church, or you've been mandated by the rules that you have to do this, and this, and this. What do you mean? I don't want to. It says in the rule book you have to. Thank you. Goodbye.
See, the good thing about OSC Advanced is it caps out at level 10.
Yeah.
So you never have to worry about that. When the characters hit level 10, they can keep playing all they want, but they're done. You know, it's level 10 or 14 or whatever. But and AD&D's that way too. First edition. Once you hit like 10th level, you can keep playing and go up levels if you want, but you don't get anything.
Well, I know.
Bragging rights, I guess, but I mean,
yeah, because it takes so much to keep going up. You know, I mean, that I try to explain that to my players is that, you know, once you reach this, you know, 8th, 9th, 10th level, it's going to take you wiping out a nation of orcs to get it go up a level.
Once you need 1 million XP to go up a level.
Yeah.
And
you're gonna you know,
and then when you do go up that level, all you get is like 2 hit points.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I mean, if that's what you want to do, but by the time you could possibly do that, if you're playing a human, you're just going to die of old age anyway. So,
right.
You know, you might as well just go do something else. And I agree with you when it comes to 3rd edition D&D. I always, when the characters got like level 8, that would be the end of them.
Yeah.
They would go do something else because, you know, 3rd level, once you get past level 8, starts getting really, or 3rd edition, it gets really wacky, you know? Everybody's got all these feats that allow them to do all this crazy ass shit. Heaven help you, someone in the group's playing like a samurai character and they've got like the whole cleave chain. We played a game once and one of the players was playing a samurai. He had the whole damn cleave chain. I think we were all like level 8 or 9 or some shit. This dude killed like 60 goblins in one turn because it was like, okay, I hit, I killed, so now I cleave. Okay, I killed, now I take a 5-foot step for free and attack again and take a 5-foot step and attack again. By the time it was done, the dude had moved like 300 feet into the goblin horde and had just been killing goblins. And it was just like, that doesn't even make sense. But okay, you know, whatever. That's what the DM's cool with. You know. And that was kind of 3rd edition. That kind of sums up 3rd edition. It you know, the feats just made it crazy. Like the basic feats weren't too bad. Cleave is not too bad. As a matter of fact, like AD&D, I think every fighter should just get cleave. You know, because in AD&D, every fighter has cleave. When you, as you're leveling, if you're fighting monsters under like one hit die, every time you kill one, you can attack again, up to a point, depending on your level. Right? That's cleave. That's all it is. Every fighter has cleave, but 5e made it like crazy. You know, like.
Well, here's my thing. It's Marvel's superheroes. It's no longer even close to being the D&D we grew up with. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. Or the Talislanta I grew up with. I'm really excited because at some point today, they're supposed to deliver my slip cover and all of my badass shit. They've already given me like a shipping number. So super awesome. I'll have 2 players handbooks because one for me, one for the players. Or 2 for the players. And we've already got the whole group. The last couple people who were holdouts about telling me what kind of players they wanted to play. It turned out they both wanted to play Jacka, which are, you know, basically Tabaxi. Except one is playing a Jacka Beast Lord or Beastmaster, and the other one is just playing a straight Jacka Warrior. And the difference is the Jacka Beast guy is basically a D&D Ranger. You know what I mean? They start the game with like a small familiar, and they're good at training animals and stuff like that, scouting and stuff right off the bat. Whereas the Jacka Warrior's like really good with the bow and arrow and, you know, combat skills. But otherwise, they just look like cat people with black fur. That's it. Cat people with black fur. So that's the whole group. I've got one of those flying ships that I made a while back and painted, and I've got the group in it so that I can look at it and be like, yeah, you know, like one of them is playing a Cimmerillion warrior mage. That's my wife's character. So as you can see, Cimmerillions are green. They're humans, but they're green. So, you know, I actually made her character out of a gladiator character that I had 3D printed. And then we've got a character that's being a muse, which are just like big fairy type creatures. And then we've got the 2 Jacka, which are, I think this is the Beastmaster. And the other one is the one with the swords, the warrior. And then we've got the Birdman, played by Hungar. and we've got the Trap Master, which is a kind of a character that, well, basically they look like shriveled up old men, and they typically wear like dull clothing, and they are masters at traps, and also considered to be quite miserly. And then we've got a gnomekin, which is, you know, kind of like a gnome, and that's it. You know, that's the group. So seems cool. We'll see.
Well, I'm looking at. You ever heard of Gamma before?
Gamma,
The
the Game Association, whatever.
Game and Manufacturers Association.
Yeah.
I was just looking at their thing. Minimum is $1,600 a booth And how do you get? I'm just looking at all the people that go to it, and I'm just like, holy crap! There's a lot of manufacturers here for games and stuff, and I'm just like, how do you stick out of a crowd in that? You know what I'm saying?
Hire a big titty girl to like
Oh God.
wear like leather dominatrix outfit and stand like on top of your booth and dance.
Gonna have to be something like that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's probably not something they would allow, but it would work.
I'm just amazed at all these just game manufacturers that are going, and I don't even recognize half the names. You know what I mean? I mean, some of these are European names, but other ones are like, never heard of you in my life. You know what I mean? So,
Like Free League, okay. Modifius, okay. Even
Free League is
Mono,
there.
which
Free
is
League
a
is-
French company, okay.
I guess I would have to go to it once as a store owner. You know what I'm saying? So you could walk around and shake the hands and get the latest and greatest of what's coming out and stuff. So
Right.
I just don't have. I can't afford to spend $1,600 for a booth to sit there and have nobody walk up to it. You know what I'm saying? I mean that's like going to what's the one in Indianapolis there?
Gen Con.
Redcon, yeah. I just don't see that.
Yeah, Gen Con. Back in the late 80s, Gen Con was so awesome. And then basically after Wizards of the Coast bought D&D, Gen Con started getting stupid. And now it's like, whatever. It's like even if somebody were to be like, hey, I've got free tickets to Gen Con, do you want to go? I'd be like, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
the crowds thing is my problem. I don't know how fast I get pissed off.
Well, there's too many crowds, and it's just too much bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm
Well,
just not interested in all this bullshit, you know?
I look at the crowds and I'm just like, yeah, no, thanks. Y'all have a good time. I'm not even gonna try. You know what I'm
I
saying?
knew I was never going to Gen Con after they banned Jeremy Hambley.
Who's
When
that?
they banned Jeremy Hambley, I was like, I will never go to Gen Con. Because Jeremy Hambley, who is not a great friend of mine or anything like that, but in his defense, he was assaulted at a bar down the street from Gen Con by some trans activist person, and Gen Con banned him because he had said some stuff online that some trans activists didn't care for.
Yeah,
And I was like, yep.
that's a problem. They believe freedom of speech so long as that they're not part of that freedom of speech. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, I was just like, well, I will not be supporting that ever, 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 ever. Because, you know, if they're going to be that actively effed up, then why would I? I mean, that doesn't even make sense. You know, it's pretty obvious. You, if you're going to get involved at all, which maybe they shouldn't have, but if you're going to get involved at all at shit that happened down the road from your whatever, maybe go after the guy who sucker punched the other guy.
Yeah.
You know,
They had two trans people up here in Minneapolis get in a fight. Then we call her Mary Moriarty up here. Mary Morality, we call her. She wanted to go prosecute the guys that got in the fight with the trans guys. And it was the trans guys who started the fight once the video came out, and she tried to suppress it. You know what I mean by saying, "Oh yeah," you know, it's like, no, you blew it. So, you know, and of course after that it was all swept underneath the rug. All the radio stations and TV stations swept it underneath the rug. So
yeah, it's kind of weird, right? It's almost like the one that walked into the Christian school and shot a bunch of people, and then no one was allowed to see the manifesto or anything. For
yeah, the one in Nashville there.
Right. Forever, because why? I don't know. And it's so weird because it's like, why does anybody care? Like, if you're a news person, your job is to tell the news. So the specifics of the person you're telling the news about shouldn't matter. You just tell the news, you know, but that's just not the way it goes. And those people should be ashamed of themselves for even calling themselves journalists. I mean, the only reason anybody learned anything is because a cop kind of let it out, you know. Otherwise, no one would have known anything. The whole thing would have just been, we don't know. I mean, even though we all knew, but it's like, wow, man. Meanwhile, heaven help you if you happen to be of a certain ethnicity and you commit a crime against anybody. They'll be coming for that ass, boy. Quick lickety split. It's it's a sad state of affairs that things have gotten the way they have. But what are you gonna do, you know?
I have no idea. I mean, look at. I heard Elon's over in Germany helping the what is that, the Conservative Party over there. I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? It's his money. Why do you guys care? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, because that Sturmer guy, he's done.
oh, the guy in England there,
Yeah,
Kier.
he's done. And the chick in Germany, she's done. She should have been done when she said that she was going to support Ukraine no matter what, and she didn't care what her voters said. That should have been her last day. Because it's like, wait a minute, what? You're going to support a foreign country and you don't care what your actual constituents think about it? Yeah, you're done. You should be gone, right? But, you know, that's not how it works. Which is why a lot of people don't like it, but part of the reason I make fun of Europe so hard is because Europe deserves it.
Some of the things they've done over there goes crazy. I was
the stupidest place on earth.
I've been watching video of like the Paris and stuff like that because the girlfriend wants to go over there, and I'm watching some videos of the crime in Paris, and I'm just like, I cannot believe the French police actually allow these games of chance per se happening right in front of the Eiffel Tower, one of the most iconic landmarks in Europe, and they're just letting that crap happen there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just like, with all the technology you've got, you can't bust these little, you know.
If you want to go to Europe and have a great time, you go to Budapest, Hungary. The people there will treat you nice. and you will not have to worry about crime so much and stuff like that. Budapest, which is actually two different cities, but at some point they just merged the names.
Well, I know, but what you also got. Look at in England now, you can get thrown in jail for speaking your mind on the internet. You know, it's like I was like, what?
Oh,
the?
what's funny too is the English guy saying that they're going to start coming after Americans.
Oh, I said to that. I said to a post I saw one of those. I said, just bring it. You'll find out quick when you hit my doorstep what my answer is going to be.
Yeah, it's like, dear England, exactly who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah.
Didn't we already beat you in a war once?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already shown
Twice.
Yeah, we've already shown that we are not interested in your silly shit. So perhaps shut the F up. Love America. You know? But maybe just shut the hell up. And who knows? They might. But I mean, we got Trump coming into office, so a lot of shit's getting ready to change. I mean,
there's going to be a sea change of stuff going on.
the idea that Trump was coming into office was enough to make the Canadian Prime Minister step down.
Well, he had no choice. He had zero choice. That boy is as good as dead. I mean, as soon as he's out of office, man, I wouldn't be surprised if people aren't throwing fruit at him every 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trudeau messed up Canada something fierce. I mean, I think what it was. I was looking at the Canadian dollar compared to the U.S. dollar. And I think it was, it's only worth 70 cents right now. At one point, it was worth 56. Can you believe that? The Canadian dollar was worth 56 back on December. I mean, it was just awful.
I don't know why anybody would want to live there, to be honest.
You know what? Go to Canada's got some beautiful places. I mean, some really beautiful places. The weather, though, sucks.
I mean, like, Dungeon Minister moved there from, like, Minnesota or Wisconsin. And I'm like, okay, he's a priest, and they moved him there for his congregation. That makes sense, kind of, but, you know, better man than me, because I might have been like, no, I don't think so. You know, I ain't got time for that shit. You know, these guys up here, you know, but maybe the government doesn't mess around with the priests so much. I don't know. I just do not know. I do know, though, that the way they treated the truckers was just shameful. They should be ashamed of themselves for that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the fact that somebody over there elected Trudeau, yeah, they should be ashamed for that. Not only once, they elected that dude like multiple times. So it's like, you know, it's like I said, you get what you freaking deserve. And if you're going to keep electing Trudeau, then you keep getting what you deserve.
You know what? I don't. Sometimes a politician's got to do the hard things. You can't just do things to feel good. You know what I mean? And that's what I think Trudeau is doing. It's just the feel good politics of it. So, I mean, it makes people feel good that I did this. Well, sometimes it doesn't make economic sense to do the feel good thing. You've got to do the right thing.
I mean, the fact that his dad may have been Castro.
Oh, you never know there.
The
Guys, I
second
need-
term was a minority government. Yeah, but it's still in my opinion, a huge shame on Canada that you guys even dealt with that shit at all.
Guys, I need to leave. I have a situation at home. Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay.
Oh,
Take
Jose.
care, bro. I mean, not that America is so much better. We let politicians get away with so much bullshit and just be all like, yeah, okay, whatever. They're politicians. What are you gonna do? Because I mean, let's be honest. Our ancestors would have been loading up the muskets and popping caps and asses over half of this shit.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like somebody acted up like this back under when George Washington was around. It'd been time to stack bodies. But at some point, we got to where we're just like, yeah, we'll put up with it because we don't want to lose our beer and stuff. You know, our comforts. We have been conquered by comfort, which is kind of the whole point of what was the name of the book? It's the one where they all got given soma all the time. Brave New World.
Hmm.
The whole point of Brave New World was that they were conquered by comfort. Like no one wanted to rebel against the government because they were all on drugs and everybody was having all the free sex and love and whatever with whoever they wanted, whenever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a pretend capitalist system for their economy, but it really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, even
yeah,
China's
they were
got a
conquered
pretend
by
capitalist system.
they were conquered by comfort, which is the worst way to be captured because then you don't even know you're captured. It's kind of the thing, you know? Like they didn't even realize they were captured. That's how hard they were captured, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're captured so hard they didn't even know it. Of course, most of them really couldn't know it because such a huge percentage of the population were like, what were they called? Gammas?
Mm-hmm.
And the gammas were designed to be mentally retarded so that they would never know anything anyway. And they were all given like my wife in there coughing. They were all given like the stupidest jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you had like the deltas, and they were basically your mechanics and truck drivers and stuff like that. And then you had like betas, and they were like all of your bureaucratic helpers. And then you had the alphas, and they were the only ones that actually thought about anything. Was your alphas. Because that was their job. Their job was to do all the thinking. But the problem with alphas doing all the thinking is occasionally one of them will think about the system and be like, hey, you know, this system's kind of effed up. Not sure I like it. At which point they get given the opportunity to move to Iceland. Because the system, not only had it won everybody over with comfort, but it was so Gentile that if you were a rebel against the system, instead of executing you, they just sent you to Iceland. And on Iceland, you could do whatever the hell you wanted, but you could never leave Iceland. So the one main character of the book who decides, the system sucks, blah, 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 in the end, he just goes to Iceland. And he has access to all the ancient library books and everything. And he can look at all the histories and be like, oh, okay. So pretty much his intellectual curiosity about what had happened was handled, but he was removed from society. So even though now he knew the truth about everything, it didn't matter because he was no longer in the society. So yeah, it is actually really a great book. Aldous Huxley. That's who did that. Yep, Aldous Huxley. Because you had what's his name, and he did 1984, right? Well, Aldous Huxley's idea was, what if you did 1984, except instead of there being a boot crushing your face day in and day out, everyone was just kind of, I don't even know how to say it. Like everyone just got what they wanted all the time.
Yeah, like spoiled children.
Right. And that was his view of the despotic government, like everyone was cloned and clones were made for specific purposes. And the population was held at a certain number, however much they needed of each type of person. And there was no families or religions. As a matter of fact, if you slept with the same person more than twice, they considered it like weird. Where did they get the books? When the company, I'm calling them a company, but it was a cabal. When the cabal that took over to create the Brave New World took over, they took a lot of the ancient history books and art and like all the things from before the war, and they stored them on Iceland. And of course, all the leaders of the Brave New World, they knew the truth about everything. Because
and Icelandic is, I just read an article about that. Icelandic translates into Old Norwegian pretty easily, and they can still read those ancient texts.
Right. But when I say ancient texts, I mean like the Constitution of the United States, novels.
These are the stuff that they looted out of like Norway and stuff like that. Those books that came over from Norway and stuff way back when,
Right. Because what had happened is World War III happened. And at the end of World War III, everything was screwed up because, it would be. So this organization rose up and they decided they were going to be in charge. And so they took over and they created the Brave New World. So they gathered up all of everything from before the war and they basically put it in Iceland. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, some of the coordinators, they kept some of it for themselves. But, and then they were just basically like, hey, if you're a person that cannot be reformed and you're just 100% determined to find out what happened in the past, and they gave the main character like 1 billion chances to just be like, okay, fine, I'll play ball. Like at one point they offered to make him like a coordinator. Mm-hmm. So he would have been in charge. But he was so like, no, F this, blah, 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 that then they told him what the final choice was, which was to be sent to Iceland, where all of that stuff that he wanted to know about was, and he could just go there. And he chose to. And that's kind of how the book ends. So if you go into Brave New World hoping that you're going to see like the good guys come out on top, I can tell you right now, no. That's not what's going to happen. The good guys win. In Brave New World, the good guys win. Not only do they win, but in a way it's way worse than 1984, because in 1984, the people at least know they're being repressed, which means at some point, someone could, in theory, lead a revolution. Was he satisfied in the end? Yeah. Because all he wanted to know is all the stuff. Because he was an alpha, he was a scientist, he had like a super high IQ, and he wasn't necessarily happy with the way things were. He wanted to know why. So when he refused to become a coordinator, which are the guys who actually run everything, they just said, all right, fine. We can send you to Iceland, where you will be free to study and research and read anything you want and look at all the ancient arts, Van Goghs and whatever. But you can never leave Iceland. However, the stuff that you study and research will use, right? So if he goes to Iceland and he makes some sort of technological breakthrough, they're going to take it. You know what I mean? And use it to continue with what they're doing. But, yeah. So he goes to Iceland and finishes out the whole rest of his life just reading the books he wants to read and doing whatever the hell he wants to do, with basically no one to tell him shit. Like, he can just do whatever he wants. And you see, unlike Brave New World, where they do the whole thing and they set you up and they break you, and then at some future point when you don't even know, they kill you. Or that's 1984. In Brave New World, shit, everything's great. Everything is great. And that's why, if you're a thinker, you realize Brave New World is the worst of the two. Because that's the one where they're basically letting you know. You will have zero choice about anything, and you'll like it, you know? And even if you rebel against it, it doesn't matter, because best case scenario for you is you become part of the cabal that runs everything, or they just send your ass to Iceland, where you can do whatever the hell you want anyway. So, right?
Yeah.
And the people in the society are so brainwashed that, like, 99% of them never even question it, you know? It's just the way it is. Because every night when they lay down in their beds, there's a speaker built into their pillow that is constantly repeating a mantra, telling them how happy they are.
Oh, God.
To be who they are. And also Soma, which is an actual drug, but I think what they're talking about might be different, is handed out like candy. It's like you wake up, you take Soma, you know, so it's like a painkiller / whatever, and you're all like, cool. And then you go to work and do whatever your work is and get paid money so that you can buy products. But the entire economy is a closed economy. So it's not actual capitalism. It's and then you, instead of going to church, you go to the temple of His Most Holy Ford, because they worship Henry Ford, basically, where they talk about how Henry Ford was awesome and then end the session with an orgy. And then you go home and you live in an apartment befitting which tier you are, you know, alpha, beta, whatever. And then you can look online to see if there's someone like Logan's Run that you want to have sex with and ask if they want to have sex. And it's considered incredibly rude to say no.
Oh, Jesus.
But again, it's considered incredibly weird to want to have sex with the same person more than twice. Like if you have sex with the same person 3 or 4 times, they start watching you. Because they're all like, okay, what's this guy up to? You know what I mean? Is he developing emotions that we need to deal with over here? That sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Because you weren't supposed to develop emotions, really. There's a lot more to it. I left out Indian John and all that, but yeah, in the end, it's a lot scarier than 1984 because at least in 1984, you know that you're being effed with, right? You know it. It's in your face. Of course, you can detach yourself from the government in 1984 and become, those like untouchable people that live outside of the city. But in Brave New World, you don't have the option because you don't even know that you're oppressed because you don't feel oppressed. As a matter of fact, you feel happy all the time. And it's because you're doing the job that you were trained to do. You've been hypnotized to believe that everything you're thinking is wonderful. And Equilibrium was really cool. I liked it. The gun foo and the whole everyone take drugs to make it where they wouldn't have any emotions.
So
but then in the end, it didn't work.
So do you like sci-fi novels at all?
What's that?
Do you like sci-fi novels or series?
I do. I used to be quite the reader of sci-fi novels.
Okay, I got one for you. Look up
Okay.
one called Grimm's War, Grimms, Grimm's War, and I got sucked into it. It's 8 books long, and it's very good. I liked it. So
I think the last sci-fi book I read was Roadside Picnic.
never heard of it.
It's a Russian/Ukrainian book that the video game Stalker is based on. And then, of course, if you've ever heard of the skirmish game, what's it called? Zona Alpha. It's kind of based on basically, have you ever seen the movie where the weird, glittery thing lands in Florida and starts just rewriting everything's genetics?
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's kind of like that, except you are sneaking into the zone, even though you're not supposed to steal shit. Hopefully, maybe even some alien technology or something, so that you can sell it for rubles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of what's happening there. So in the actual board game, you put together a crew of Russian mercenaries, pretty much, and you're going into the zone and hunting for stuff, except there might be other zoners in there who want you dead because they want your stuff,
Oh, okay.
No one's a good guy in the zone. Outside of the zone, shit might be, you might have a drink of vodka with these guys at the bar, right? But once you're in the zone, it's
All bets are off.
All bets are off. It's you and your crew versus everyone else. And plus mutants and shit, because the zone is just crawling with mutants and monsters and all kinds of crazy shit. And and you're in there with it. It's only Russians could write shit like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just so fucking dark. Everything sucks. It's kind of like no American could ever have written the Metro games. Those games had to be written by Russia. I don't know if you're familiar with Metro, but
I've never heard of it.
yeah, in Metro, World War III happens. America and Russia decide to nuke the shit out of each other for fun and prizes. No one wins, obviously. And the Russians in Moscow all just move underground into the metro.
Yeah.
Because the metro system in Russia is huge. You know what I mean? Plus, it's like 500 feet below the surface. And I guess Stalin or whoever, they made it that way on purpose.
Well, of course they did. I heard that. Now, I don't know if this is general intelligence anymore or anything, but there is a rail line from underneath Red Square out past the suburbs that nobody uses.
Right, there's secret train lines.
Yeah.
Well, in Metro, the survivors, it's a while after the war and there's mutants and shit like that. They've kind of formed countries, and each of these like political ideologies controls parts of the Metro. And your guy's just trying to basically survive. But you've got like the new National Socialist Party. They control a big chunk of the Metro. You've got the new Soviets. They control a big chunk of it. You know, you've got all these groups. And then, of course, you've just got straight up cannibalistic F-tards with no ideology. They just, want to eat people or whatever. And you have to somehow navigate your way through all this shit, without getting killed, which is a lot more difficult than it sounds, let me tell you. And there's a couple of games, like there's one game where they find a radio station talking about how there's survivors in this bunker, and you can take a metro train to the bunker. Except when you get to the bunker, everyone there is a cannibal.
Oh, great.
And they just sent that thing out saying that there was safety there to lure people there so they could eat them. So then you got to fight your way out of that. And yeah, that's just Metro. It's just like, and Stalker mods. Yeah. Stalker mods are crazy because it's like, it's kind of like I said with Roadside Picnic or Alpha Zona. It's kind of like everyone's kind of for themselves. They don't have to be, but they are. Like you might run into people that you can befriend and form a little group with, whatever, especially I guess if you were playing multiplayer or something. But on the other hand, if you see another guy out there or one of the monsters, you're better off running than waiting to see what it's going to do. Because chances are whatever it's going to do is not going to be healthy for you personally. Like, it's going to kill you. To put it in a lot more simple way, it's going to kill you. That's what it's going to do. So, if you see like some of these mutant things or whatever, yeah, you don't want to mess with them because typically speaking, they just want to kill you. That's just kind of the thing. So, yeah. And that's the whole story of that setting. It's like you're either in Moscow and the surrounding environment, or Ukraine and Russia, and all hell has broke loose, whether it's aliens or nuclear attack, depends. and you're trying to survive. Just like that one video game with all the zombies was set in Russia. I forget the name of it, but I played it for a while. Damn it. It's like you would just start out in the middle of the wilderness and run around and try and you could go into all these different cities and like, you know, dig around to try to find canned food and stuff like that. But the problem was there were zombies everywhere. And they were bound and determined to eat you, like for sure. You know what I mean? That was their goal, is to eat you. Be right back. I am walking over here to look outside and see if the mail has ran. And I don't see it. So my Taos Lantha stuff has not showed up yet. It's supposed to be here sometime today. And 2, put these cannons in this frigate. Even though I need to go ahead and paint the rest of this guy. It's pretty much done. And I've been putting it off because I've been painting, Ice and Fire guys. But,
Yeah.
Like,
It looks like you got some more sails to add to that thing.
I do. I've got a what they call a what's that called? Anyway, I've got the cell on the back and the cell on the front. But yeah, this is a frigate. This is actually a for real warship. I don't think you would really see too many pirates with something like this. Usually they would have like civilian ships that they converted.
Mm-hmm.
So like they might capture a fishing sloop or something and then stick a bunch of guns on it and go out, robbing people. But typically, yeah, they wouldn't be cruising around in frickin' actual warships. Typically. I think one pirate did capture a frigate at one point. And he named it the Queen Anne.
Oh, yeah, Blackbeard.
Yeah. But then he ended up getting killed by Lieutenant Maynard. And then
Yeah,
his
North
skull
Carolina.
was displayed in Williamsburg, Virginia. Well, they marched his body up and down the street. And then they beheaded him, and then his skull was displayed. And then, if the rumors are correct, the Masons took his skull, and they made a punch bowl out of it.
I put nothing past any of those people way back when.
And that's why his skull went missing. But I've been to Colonial Williamsburg, I guess twice, maybe 3 times. My wife's been there, I don't know, a dozen times. And, we've gone for like the Halloween ghost hunts and shit like that. And let's just say there's a lot more going on at Colonial Williamsburg than you would like to think. Apparently, the graveyard, there's so many tunnels under the graveyard where the different founders and whatever were digging secret freaking tunnels and passageways and meeting places and rooms.
Sounds like Paris with all the catacombs.
Yeah, it's kind of that sort of thing, It's like, they were taking part in. I mean, a lot of people don't realize because we love them because they're our founders. But a lot of our founders were straight up Satanists. And even the ones that weren't technically straight up Satanists were satanic adjacent, Or I shouldn't say Satanist so much as Luciferian. There is somewhat of a difference. But yeah, Yeah, a lot of our founders, like I love Thomas Jefferson. He's my favorite founder. But the fact of the matter is that dude was involved in all kinds of secret occult organizations and shit. Ben Franklin was a member of the Hellfire Club. You know, I mean, they were pretty much, not all of them, but pretty much a lot of them were just straight up in with that shit, you know? And I guess we turned the other cheek on it because they're the founders. But that's why if you want to get into like weird conspiracy theory shit, all you got to do is like look at Washington, D.C. from the air. And you'll notice that there's a pentagram and like all of the different major buildings are set up in certain ways. And there's like a huge Masonic hall there or two. And, you know, most of our presidents, excepting the current one, were members of Skull and Bones and went to Bohemian Grove and, you know, all that sort of shit. So, I mean, yeah, it gets pretty wild when you really start looking into the history of, you know, there was actually a huge almost war in the United States back in the day because they were trying to wipe out the Masons, like all the Masonic lodges and shit. Like a lot of the Americans back then were like, nope, they got to go. And yeah, there was a whole thing with that. But, you know, history is funny like that. And if you ever get a chance to go to Colonial Williamsburg, I suggest you go. That place is nuts. Also, it's good if you're a DM to go there because they have like mills and presses and blacksmiths and stuff. And when you go in there and you actually see how that shit was in like 1650, it pretty much is very eye-opening, you know? You're like, wow. And your average house back then was tiny. Even the big ones, like we went into the Wythe House, which is where Thomas Jefferson went through his apprentice to be a lawyer. The house is massive, right? There's not a single room in that house bigger than 10 by 10.
Huh.
Because the rooms had to be very small so they could be easier to heat. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got this big 3-story mansion, but you go in and it's tiny little rooms. Also, the tavern, which you can go into, when you bought a bed at the tavern, you were expected to share it with someone else, whether you knew it or not. And what they would do is they would sleep head to foot on the beds. So, yeah, if you were a wealthy traveler that could afford a bed in a tavern, you were sharing it with some other traveler who also had bought a bed. It was...
what they call those divider boards and stuff, you know?
they didn't even have that.
Oh.
You just slept head to feet. You know? And of course, back then, because it was an English crown colony, there was like slaves, and you can go see where the slaves lived, and you can hear like all the kind of like, why didn't they free the slaves? Because the English crown said if you freed a slave, you were still responsible for the actions of your slave.
Oh.
So if you freed your slave and your slave went on an axe murdering spree, guess who was getting hanged? Well, the slave was, obviously, but so were you. If he stole shit, you were going to pay for it. Why they did that, I don't know. And then at one point, they wanted to free all the slaves, and they wanted to give them tools and wagons and stuff and just let them go like past Kentucky, you know, and start their own country. But then they decided that would be inhumane because the slaves lacked the knowledge to survive. And even though you would load them up with food and tools and shit like that, once they got out into the Indian wilderness, they would just be food for the beast. Can I help you, my love?
I just realized today was the 7th.
Today is the 7th.
I know. I forgot to pay the bills on the 1st because I was sick.
Uh-oh.
I just paid everything.
You paid all the bills? That's right. My sugar mama. My cougar.
Here's a cougar.
I'm just sitting here like a little cougar cub. Like, meow, I need milk. Meow.
That is ridiculous looking, and I don't even know what to do with
Meow. Milk, please, meow. She's literally like 4 months older than me.
Well,
She's born in like 1 and I was born in 4.
well,
that. You are so silly.
should
I got
bend
my-
you. She should bend you over her knee and give you a spanking.
She's too small
What?
to bend me over your knee and give me a spanking. Hey, I've got my dwarf I've got my apron on. I know that does something for you.
You are adorable.
Yeah, I am adorable, aren't I?
You are adorable.
See? She says I'm adorable when I'm wearing my dwarf apron.
There you go.
I'm telling you what. Hey,
If
but
you
you know
wasn't
what?
sick right now, I know you'd be getting off.
Dwarves are freaking awesome anyway, so I don't care what anyone says. You know, if I weren't playing a human, it would definitely be a dwarf in any role-playing game that allows for it. You know, as a matter of fact, I might even play a dwarf if I were playing Traveler 2300. I'd just play a human that had the King DNAM, which is DNA augmentation, which all it does is turn you into a dwarf so that you are better suited for high gravity environments.
There you go.
Yeah, it makes you shorter, but it gives you like a much larger heart, a much stronger cardiovascular system, stronger bones, stronger muscles. So when you're not in a high gravity area, you're actually, you know, very, very strong. The only negative is that the King DNAM, usually you die after about 70 years. And most humans' lifespans are in the hundreds, you know, by this time. But all of the strain on your body from living at 2G all the time,
Oh God.
it just wears you out. And then you die, you know. Like a human that lands on King Colony, you could walk around for a little bit, but eventually, yeah, your legs would probably shatter and then you'd just be laying on the ground. Dwarves are my favorite too. Yep. My favorite, James Lowry, and how are you today, sir, are humans. I'm that guy. I am that guy who plays the human. I like the human. Not only do I play the human, I play the human fighter. And I'm all like, yeah, human fighters are awesome. I've never understood why people complain about them. You know, they do their role. They're heroic, whatever. But if I can't be a human fighter, I'd be a dwarf. And of all the dwarf types to be, I am very partial to dwarf thief. Mainly because as a dwarf thief, I would picture myself as like a underground tunnel runner. Like the kind of dwarf that runs up and down the dwarf tunnels to make sure, you know, no bad guys have set up shop or whatever. That would kind of be what I'd want to be. I mean, unless the game would let a dwarf be a ranger, in which case I'd want to be a dwarf ranger, you know? Oh, well, yeah, I'm glad you're doing very well. I am fighting off some kind of sickness. My wife has got it. Uh, Probably a cold. I woke up this morning with a sore throat. She was happy. She slept throughout the whole night. So
You
good
didn't
for
wake
her,
her up
but
with your snoring?
I don't snore. I used to. When I weighed 300 pounds, I snored like crazy.
Oh,
But when I lost the weight, I stopped snoring.
there you go.
But yeah, she has had a hard time getting a full night's sleep since she started getting sick. But
Well, my girlfriend
last
has a
night,
recommendation that she always says to us. It's called oil of oregano. You put it in some juice and you swallow it down and before bed, and your body heats up like nothing you've ever had before, and usually it just kicks the crap out of that stuff. You know?
really,
Yep. All natural, just oil of oregano.
I'll have to let her know about it.
We take that, and also we do a regular thing is we get that Lysol laundry sanitizer. When we had little kids running around here all the time, it was like, nope, they came home from school, take your clothes off, go take a bath, and we dunk all their stuff in the put it in the laundry basket, and then right away we'd wash that stuff. And kids are petri dishes, and I mean even their clothing, it comes home and it's just like, ugh. And we managed to go through COVID and stuff without having it too bad. She got it twice because she kept leaving the house, but I never got it. So
If I got it, I didn't know I had it.
yeah,
So, I did get sick there for a minute, but it was very late into the whole thing. So if I did get it, I probably got the Omicron one, which they said was like really, really spreadable, but very weak. Because, yeah, I just felt like crap for like a couple of days. And then, yep, they're agreeing. Squirrel Hermit, how you doing, my good man? I'll have to let
see,
him know.
he agrees.
But yeah, James, exactly. Something like that. A trap engineer, whatever. But also, if the game allows for a dwarf ranger, like being the guy that runs up and down the dwarf highway underground, just making sure that kobolds or various other enemies of the dwarven kingdom haven't infiltrated. I think that would be awesome. That's such a cool idea. Which is I stole from Warhammer Fantasy. They have that in Warhammer Fantasy. There's like a whole group of dwarves, and all they do is run up and down the underway and make sure that orcs or whatever haven't broke in. Goblins usually. But now in Talislanta, since I got to mention that, the Gnomekin just have warriors that patrol the tunnels under Dern, because there's all kinds of shit that live in those tunnels that will, kill and eat travelers. So they have groups of Gnomekin warriors that run around trying to, make sure those assholes stay under lock and key or whatever, But the tunnels under Dern are as big as all 9 of the kingdoms, and maybe even bigger. So that's why when the Jacka's homeland was destroyed, the Gnomekin of Dern were like, oh, you can live here with us. And everybody was like, people were like, really? And the Gnomekin were like, yeah, we don't actually use the surface. You know what I mean? Because they grow fungus and shit underground to eat. So they, even though it was their kingdom, they all live subterranean. So so now you've got basically 2 kingdoms in one geographic area. But the surface is the Jacka kingdom, and underneath is the Dern kingdom of the Gnomekin. So, yeah, one of the kits might have had that in 2E. It's just like if I'm playing 1E and it won't let me do the ranger thing, then I do the thief thing, you know, light armor, crossbow, you know, some weapons, stealthing around the Underdark, making sure that the dwarf hold is safe, basically, you know, and I like that. I like that a lot. So I guess I'm going against type, since most people would say dwarves should be like these heavily armored fighter types. And here I am being like, nope, light armor, skill monkey, doing my thing, you know, but all for the good of the clan hold, right? And that's really what matters when you get down to it, right? That what you're doing is for the good of the clan hold. So yeah, the lady that always plays a small, she's playing a gnomekin whose nickname is Trixie. And she's going to be a gnomekin warrior. So, which gnomekin are not gnomes. Like, they're a little taller, they're much stronger. And instead of having a head of hair like normal people, they actually have like a mane that goes all the way down to like the middle of the back. But they live underground and they do a lot of work with crystals. They even have their own branch of magic called crystalmancy, which allows them to enchant and modify crystals and grow them too. If you give a crystalmancer a very small crystal, they can put it down and actually use their magic to make the crystal grow. Axe had a great dwarf supplement. But oh yeah, buy this axe. Yeah, that's good. Axe had some great classes. I think Axe even had like a tunnel runner for the dwarves or something like it. But call me the weirdo. My favorite class for the dwarves, which one of my players played for like a year, was the basically the artificer. He had like a robot dog that followed him around, and he was kind of pretty much a thief, but he had like a robot dog and stuff like that. And you know, every morning he had to wake up and spend like an hour winding up freaking springs and oiling joints and stuff like that. And boy, that dog came in handy too, because it had an encumbrance value of like whatever its weight was times 4 or some shit. So the dog by itself could carry like 480 pounds. So he designed the dog with like tie hooks on it. You know what I mean? So anytime they would encounter like a lot of treasure that they couldn't carry, they just tie it to the dog. So the dog was just their robotic henchman carrying all their gear around, even though it could fight. It could fight. And I think when he got up levels and started being able to add stuff to it, he gave it the ability to breathe fire or something. You know? But that's Axe. Axe is, they don't split race from class. They just invent a shit ton of classes that are race specific.
Subclasses.
It's like the dwarf vault guard is a fighter, but does not necessarily work like a human fighter. And the elves, pretty much all of their classes except the ranger can use magic. Like one of their classes is called a Nightblade, and it's pretty much a mage assassin. Of course, in Axe, elves are not necessarily super good, or slightly good, or even remotely good. Just, you know what I mean? Elves are just doing their own thing, mostly. So you just kind of got to deal with that. But yeah, the elf constructs or dwarf constructs, there was even the rules in the book where if a dwarf at like, I forget what level, wanted to, they could make a helicopter that could carry them at 100 and so many feet per round. But I mean, it didn't have any armor or weapons, and it only had like 12 hit points. But yeah, dwarves could make helicopters. They could make golems. Yeah, they're immoral. Elves are like, they're just doing elf shit in Axe. And then, of course, for the longest time, the only class you could play if you played a gnome was the trickster. But I think they added like the gnome alchemist and some other stuff now. But yeah, in Axe, you've got the elf, the dwarf, the human are basically the three main ones you can play, and maybe the halfling. I don't remember. But each of these things has like 5 or 6 classes, but they're all different, like drastically different. Like you play a human mage, that's one thing. The elf version, different. And that is one of my favorite things about Axe. And yes, elves are just completely amoral. They're not good at all. Some of them can be good, but overall, not super good. As a matter of fact, at one point, the elves had this big empire, and they're responsible for creating a bunch of the monsters that are now roaming the world, being pains in the ass. Like, they created the lizard men, and then the lizard men, when the elf empire got super depraved and whatever, the lizard men overthrew the elves and wiped them out. And then, like, the lizard men started creating creatures also, which I think is where you get like orcs and kobolds and shit like that, you know. And then there was a tribe of humans, the lizard men, basically let be their slaves. And then that tribe of humans, when they learned enough of the lizard men's magic, overthrew the lizard men. So then all the humans that had been enslaved were like, yay, we're free. And the human tribe that overthrew the lizard men were like, no, under new management. And then eventually there was this big civil war in which the evil human empire was overthrown by, let's just call it Rome. Because in Axe, the human empire is basically Rome. And, you know, and then the empire got super powerful, but now it's degraded and the emperor may be dead and there's barely any legions left to protect anything. And, you know, barbarians are at the gates, etc., etc. And into this world, you, the adventurer, walk in and see what you can do about any of it. So, yeah. Like north of the ocean, there's the barbarians, which used to be part of the empire, but they had a rebellion. Like all these different people had rebellions and broke away from the empire. And then like the Mongolians or the Huns are coming and the imperial forces just have no idea how to handle them. So, you know. But such a good game. And Alexander Macris is a decent human being too. Like I've spoken to him and he's a decent person. Yeah. Yeah. If everyone will go along with it, you can start the game as like a Dread Knight or whatever. Yeah. which are basically like the Zaharan anti-paladin. The Zaharan are, of course, the evil humans. They still exist, and they still would like their empire back, but they got to be all secretive about it because, you know, the current empire would kick their asses. But they're still out there. And what's extra hilarious is like most of the Axe adventures are Alexander Macros's take on old school TSR adventures. So like the first adventure where you have to go to the fort on the borderland or something, it's just the keep on the borderland. But it's totally rewritten because instead of a keep, it's like a Roman border fort with legionnaires and cataphracti, and it's ruled over by a legatus, and you know, you got to go into a forest where there's like this ancient dungeon, and you know, there's bandits and all kinds of other shit that goes on, and yeah, and you got to stop a Zaharan Dread Knight or whatever it is from uniting all of the monsters so that they can, you know, start taking out border forts and yeah. And of course, the legatus's wife is kind of pissed off because they used to be stationed in the capital, so basically fake Rome. But then something happened, and the emperor sent them to like the frontier, kind of a, you know. But luckily, she sent their children to the capital to be educated. And then there's another major city, starts with a C, in the borderlands. And this city is like 5 cities because the human city was built on the overthrown Zaharan city, which was built on top of the Lizardman city, which was built on top of the original Elf city. So if you go into the sewers and you find the right place to go, you end up going deeper and deeper, and every level you go down is totally different because it's either, you know, the whatever culture it was that the city built on top of, you know. And it can get pretty crazy if you get down into the elven level and there's like a room where there's like, I don't know, a bunch of mummies and shit. I mean, totally nuts. And you have to stop a conjunction of the stars or some shit because if it happens, the whole world will end. You know, the chthonic gods and all that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. And then most of the human gods are just based on Roman gods. Pretty much like the main god is Sol of Invectus. So, yeah. Very Romanesque, pretty much. Like Hungar played a Greek. I call him a Greek. The country he comes from is not Greece, but it is Greece, you know what I mean? And his character was a sailor for the Imperial Navy for a long time. And how that was represented is he had the proficiency in sailing at like level 3, which meant he could be the captain of a warship. He knew how to do it. And but then he retired from the Imperial Navy and decided to become an adventurer, you know. But yeah, that game is such a good game. And one thing that's kind of crazy, there's like a lot of people on YouTube now that are pushing it. Like I think Clownfish TV mentioned it, John Arose mentioned it, or John Delarose, whatever his name. He mentions it at the end of every video that people should be playing Axe. So it's starting to get the love it deserves, and you know, that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it does deserve the love. I mean, if you're not going to play AD&D or something like that, Axe is really the way to go. And Macris really took some things and turned them on their heads, which I really like. There's a kind of cleric in the game that under no circumstances can use non-bladed weapons. It's called a blade dancer. They all have to be female. They serve a war goddess. And they all have to be female. They all have to use bladed weapons when they do their war dance or whatever. It's like, that's kind of cool, you know, a whole class that, you know, completely just blows out of the water the usual preconceptions of what a cleric is, you know, and is actually really good at fighting too, depending on how you make them. They can be pretty good fighters. So, yeah, pretty good. And that's the kind of stuff he did too. Yep, Axe 2 still, you know. Today I am supposed to get my Talislantha stuff. I'm super excited. I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it. Woo-oo. You're muted. Let me double check and make sure I'm not muted. You're muted. Muted. Can't hear you. What? As a matter of fact, I might need to check my deliveries. See where it is. It's supposed to be here today.
All right, big man. I think we've been on for a couple hours now. I got to get off and I got to go do some crap. So,
all right. Well, that makes perfect sense, honestly.
I think you've been on for 2 hours. I don't know the timer here. I don't see it. So,
probably more than that.
Yeah. Well, I know your wife's sick. You probably got to go tend to her a little bit. So,
yeah, here in about 30 minutes, I got to make her tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh yeah, that's that. You know how to do the cheap grilled cheese sandwiches? You want my recipe? Use a toaster. You put the toast. You toast the bread. Then you take slices of American cheese. You put it inside it. Then you throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It works. It's like, okay, I don't have to do all that fanciness. You know, butter the bread, put it in the toaster, let it toast up nice, and then you put the cheese on it, put it in the microwave for less than 30 seconds. You got yourself a grilled cheese sandwich.
All right. Well, everyone who showed up, thank you for dropping in and saying hey and all that. Have you read the Sword of Truth series? No. The only Sword series of books I've ever read was the Sword series of books by Fred Saberhagen, which I liked a lot.
All right. See you guys later.
I prefer 3-axis. I make my own up. You're either good, unaligned, or evil. And yes, Axe 2 is probably going to be bomb as hell. But with that said, I'm going to jump off of here. Hopefully the mail will run. I'll get my stuff. That would be nice. So anyway, peace and love, guys.